Full house on a Tuesday morning coming off another Peyton and Eli night. Didn't exactly go down the wire this time in Monday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers getting back to looking like Aaron Rodgers. And Gamecock football getting back to SEC play this Saturday, coming off the Georgia loss with Kentucky coming into Williams-Brice. A handful of points on a favorite side. Welcome in. Hope your Tuesday morning's off to a good start. Bill, you were out yesterday, so why don't we get your thoughts on where Gamecock football sits as we sit here at 6:05 on a Tuesday morning. 3 games in with Carolina 2-1 coming off the 40-13 loss to Georgia with Kentucky coming to town.
I think it sits where I know that there are some things that we thought would be better, certainly the offensive line and run game, but it sits where we thought that they would be sitting after 3 games when I looked at the schedule. And, you know, I don't know what it was like on Thursday and Friday here. I'm sure a few people probably said that South Carolina would give up a huge fight and have a chance in the fourth quarter. But I think most of us had been saying since February that the bottom line is this would be the first time, this game in particular, would be the first time that Shane Beamer really faced adversity and something that didn't define happiness. And yeah, I know East Carolina was a little bit closer and there was some adversity in that game when you're down 14-0. But, you know, you saw a better football team, a much better football team and what they did to South Carolina. And it gave us an idea of how far South Carolina really has to go to be competitive with Georgia again. Because let's be honest, Georgia called the dogs off, for lack of a better term, sometime around the mid-third period there, third quarter. But with all that being said, South Carolina's where I think a lot of us expected them to be. 2-1 hadn't necessarily been the thing, that hadn't been the prettiest thing, but here they are. And it looks like the guy that everybody's wanted to be quarterback will now be quarterback moving forward in Luke Doty. And we'll see how much that changes things with the offense. And you've got a point spread here this weekend that at least indicates Vegas thinks this is a winnable game, unless it's gone up. Maybe it's gone up to 6. I'm not sure, but I saw it open at 5. So, you know, it's not like this thing is a 31-point underdog or even a touchdown underdog going into the weekend. So interesting, and a chance for South Carolina. Look, we'll get into it. I'm sure you guys have talked about it. There needs to be some corrections made, needs to be some things that happen, but it's a winnable game this weekend. And you win this one, nobody says a peep really about the Georgia game and potentially what's been going on with the run game or the lack of offensive pass blocking. So it's a fun week. It's at least a little bit of energy this week.
Did you guys see the video put out by Gamecocks online last night? The social media video is fantastic. If you haven't seen it yet, it is a high quality deal with Derek Moore and narrating that thing in his own unique way. And the gist that I got, Bill, is that adversity will not pull the team apart and ultimately will make them strong. They're moving forward, knowing that there's a challenge, but looking forward to it kind of deal. And the way it was put together, I think if you have followed Gamecock football for a while, you know that in the past couple of seasons, sometimes a little bit of adversity has really, I think, snowballed. I think it is the best way to put it. And just to see this put out when it was put out, I understand where the program is. I think you're exactly right. 3 games in, 2-1 was pretty much best case scenario, and actually what most people thought Gamecock football would be. Most people around Carolina football. Now, I think we start to really figure out what this 2021 team is. I retweeted it last night. You guys see this? We all think Mark Stoops is a good coach, right? Patrick, you with us on that?
Yes.
Mark Stoops has done a good job at Kentucky. Steve Spurrier always used to say how difficult the job at Kentucky was. You guys want to guess Mark Stoops' record? Even if you saw it last night, it's still difficult to guess if you didn't pay too much attention to it. His record on the road in the SEC, where you play typically 4 games a year. He's been in the league now 8 years. He did play 5 road games last year in the weird 10-game SEC only schedule. You guys want to guess? So you average 4 games a year. There's 33 total games he's played on the road in the SEC. You want to guess his record?
Patrick, you want to guess? I saw
What
this.
do you-
I know that.
go
I did
first.
not see. How many total games was it?
33.
33.
10 and 23.
Not a bad guess. Not a bad guess.
Worse than that. He's averaged 1 win per year. 8 and 25 is the road record in the SEC in 8 years.
And it should be noted what is and it should be noted what 2 of those, is it 2 of those have come against South Carolina? 2 of the 8 are South Carolina.
Averaging 1 per year, and we all this is not a knock on Mark Stoops. I think it is an expectation thing for Kentucky football and maybe where it was when he took it over and what he's been able to do with it, that we give him as much credit as we do. Bill, I think you pointed out in the offseason maybe what the record was right around 500 or a game under.
It was 49 and 50. 49 and 50 going into this year.
So to me, this week is a really fascinating matchup between Carolina and Kentucky. Some wildly interesting stuff coming out of Clemson last night. You guys see this as well? They've got a running back out. Dabo Swinney announced that Lynn J. Dixon is going to enter the transfer portal on his he announced that on his radio show last night. Also mentioned that defensive tackle Tyler Davis needs surgery to repair a torn bicep. Expected to miss really most of the regular season. Seems like a lot like the Sherrod Green timeline for the Gamecocks. Best case scenario, going to be back 7 to 8 weeks, what I think would be November at this point. I think so. You talk about adversity in the Gamecock program, I get that, but what happened against Georgia Tech, I think a lot more surprising to most people in college football, with Clemson winning only 14-8 than the 40-13 final score with the Gamecocks going over to Athens. Is that fair, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of laid up over the weekend, so it's kind of funny. I observed so much college football on Saturday that I had no reason to watch the college football finale that comes on Sunday morning. I had actually been able to take in just about every game in some way, shape, or form starting on Saturday afternoon, and Clemson was one of those games, somewhat because of the lightning delay up there. And man, that offense right now is it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And thankfully the defense has been able to stand up. But you look at the opponents so far, South Carolina State and Georgia Tech is not a good football team either. That's a team that lost to Northern Illinois. I'll be interested. Clemson and NC State this week. I know the Tigers are a 12-point favorite, but that's a program right now that's kind of reeling. We'll see if they can get it back together. It's not like they lack the talent to run through. I mean, look, they don't play anybody. You look at the rest of their schedule. Maybe Boston College can trip them up into it. If that game was if the Boston College game was in Chestnut Hill, which everybody knows is just the most difficult place to go in and win a football game, of course. But the Rowdy Eagle fans are known across the ACC as one of the best student sections. But I don't know if there's anybody on their schedule that really threatens them. I mean, good Lord, was it? Last Monday when I was on with you, we were sitting here saying, well, you could be Florida State after the Jacksonville State loss, and now you're saying, man, nobody wants to be Florida State. So the rest of Clemson's schedule is still basically a cakewalk that basically anybody could navigate without flinching with Clemson's talent. But still, there's some issues. We'll see if they get them fixed. Lord knows they got enough talent up there to fix it easily, but they've got to get it fixed, and they got to get it fixed quick.
Yeah, 35-14. Wake Forest beat Florida State over the weekend. In case you missed that final score, Florida State off to an 0-3 start for the first time since 1976. Notable for sure. Back to Monday Night Football last night. Patrick, what did you think of Aaron Rodgers and the Packers kind of reinstating themselves after the disappointing Game 1 start and all the drama that's gone on with Rodgers in the offseason?
Well, we've all forgotten about it now. I mean, the week 1 was awful. It was a joke, but I think you just completely chalk that up as a complete nothing quarter, basically. Like, it was probably the worst game of Aaron Rodgers' entire career, and I don't know why it happened. I think they were just off from the start, and the Saints defense was really good that day. It was not the same Saints defense that we saw play the Panthers on Sunday, because they didn't have Marshawn Lattimore, their best corner. They didn't have Marcus Davenport, who is going to make a huge jump this year and was awesome in that Packers game. Him and Cam Jordan is a pretty lethal pass rushing duo right there. So it wasn't the same defense, and I think you just chalk that up as first game. Something was off with the Packers overall. I don't know if it was Bakhtiari not being there still or what it was, but he wasn't himself. And last night it was back to normal. A bad team, bad defense, bad everything in Detroit. Jared Goff actually made some plays, but I don't even know what his stat line was. I just watched the short highlights because I didn't get to watch the game. So yeah, the Packers are back. The Packers are exactly probably going to be what we expect them to be all season long. Them winning the North is probably the most likely, probably the most obvious of any division winner in the NFL this year. So I'm not surprised. And I watched some of the clips of the Manning brothers. It seemed like a very entertaining broadcast. I don't know if this one topped the first one, but Gronk was pretty funny. I mean, his audio was all sorts of messed up. He didn't seem to know what he was doing, and he kept leaning back and forth and going in and out. But him talking about, I don't watch film. I pretty much just show up and ask Tom who's covering me and what kind of defense they're going to run. And thanks for teaching him that 4 verts play, because I've got like 90 touchdowns and 1,000,000 yards off it. So I appreciate that, Peyton. Gronk was probably my favorite part of that.
Pat McAfee was on late with him. He was fantastic. He was a punter with the Indianapolis Colts, and Peyton Manning was there. He had some great stories, including a casino one that was fantastic. I think it was as good as the first one, but maybe I was just a little bit more used to it this time, so it wasn't a unique phenomenon thing. Bill, did you catch any of the Peyton Eli last night?
Yeah, that's all I watched for the game. I don't even. And I might be in the minority. I like the actual telecast group that they got of Brian Greasy, Louis Riddick, and Steve Levy. So I'm actually a fan of that. But I watched it. The Gronk thing, you're right. The audio was awful, and then I don't know. Gronk's just living his best life, man. Like I go back, he's getting into these commercials. You see him and Tom Brady like doing commercials now. I've seen Brady and more stuff. Subway commercial. Gronk's in what is it? What's the I guess a cell phone commercial, and then he's in a insurance commercial, I guess, where he does act kind of like a moron. He's like, I'm special, and you're like, oh, that's Gronk to a T. And then last night he was kind of playing that up as well. Just I don't watch film. I just go out and run past people. And did you guys see though? I watched a ton of TV the last few days, so I could be wrong on this, but the play they ran, I don't know if it was this past Sunday or if it was 2 weeks ago. Did you see that it was a Patriots play that nobody else? Oh yeah, it was 2 weeks ago, because I saw it Sunday morning they ran it against the Cowboys on Sunday Thursday Night Football. Did you guys hear this? They ran a Patriots play that nobody on the Bucs knew.
Gronk, except for Brady and Gronk.
Yeah, he called it audible. The cameras picked it up. They were down around the 10-yard line, and he called Gronk, and he said, Liz Brewski. And Gronk knew that was some kind of like stick route, like in, out. And that's it reminded me of years ago, probably about longer than 10, maybe about 14, 15 years ago when I was in my mid-20s. I played flag football with this team, and 2 of the guys had played football at Newberry College. We were all on the same team together, but those 2 communicated, and they would they would run an audible. We'd be out there, and they'd run a play, and the quarterback would signal to the wide receiver, and he'd give him something that they only knew, and then none of the rest of our team knew. And that kind of reminded me of that. Like Tom and Gronk are just out there running plays that nobody else knows, but it was Liz Brewski, because Teddy Bruschi was like, Belichick named that play after me up there, and that's what they ran there on short goal line situations. When I think he was trying to explain it. This was on the morning show on Sunday, so those 2 guys were just out there doing their own thing in Tampa.
It's working, whatever it is. Brett Favre was also on with Eli and Peyton Manning last night, and that reminds me of something that he was talking about, how he was in the same system there for 16 years with the Packers, and then he went to the Jets, and it was completely opposite. Like, I forget exactly what it was. I think he was saying the protections when he was with the Packers were numbers, and then the names were the plays, and then when he went to the Jets, it was the exact opposite. So a lot of times Brian Schottenheimer would have to translate it for him, I guess, as he was going in, just so he could understand what was going on. It was interesting hearing Favre's perspective. And to watch those guys react like fans when Rodgers threw a 1 touchdown pass there. I think it was the third quarter, just a bullet right over the middle. And then to watch Peyton Manning as well say, yeah, Aaron Rodgers can throw when his feet are wherever. It doesn't matter. I always had to have my feet pointing to my target. I am jealous of Aaron Rodgers, how he's able to throw. Was pretty fascinating.
I'm going to be very interested how the ratings come in on this one because I don't know if we talked about the show, but we definitely talked about the live stream last week. The numbers were, it seemed like everyone was talking about the Mannings, and that was the only thing you heard discussed last week. But the numbers were 800,000 viewers for the Mannings, and then 7.6 on ESPN, 6.9 million on ABC. I feel like these numbers are going to start getting bigger and bigger. I mean, at some point, are Peyton and Eli just going to crush the ESPN broadcast, and people are only going to watch this because they're not doing every game? It's probably going to save ESPN.
I think
at all, Bill. You said no.
No, I think let me confirm this, but I feel like I feel like part of this is part of ESPN's plan, and I'll confirm this.
ESPN Plus thing you're talking about
to go to ESPN Plus. I'll see if I can.
Because they're only doing what, 8 games or something like that?
10. Well, there's 8 more.
Games?
10 total. There's obviously now 8 left. But I felt like, if you missed this, you can catch it on ESPN2 or ESPN Plus tonight. So, anyway, I'll look and see. But I feel like later in the season, this is going to ESPN Plus.
I mean, it's so much more entertaining. Like Gronk making fun of Peyton for having Marvin Harrison, and him and Tom are going to pass him and all that stuff. Just like talking trash on Brady's behalf was awesome. It's just all great. I'm trying to find this one tweet. Here it is. The David Hellman, I think he writes for the Saints or something like that. So it's got to drive Peyton crazy that he ate, slept, and breathed football his whole life to become the QB he was. And Gronk is a 4-time Super Bowl champ. And it's just like, I don't know, man. I just got to show up when we run the touchdown play. LOL. And that is exactly the vibe I got from Gronk. He's just like, I don't know.
I just run past people. That's why he put out a great poll question the other day. Did you guys see that? He said he and his wife were having the discussion, who would men rather be, Brady or Gronk? I think that's what it comes down to, right? I mean, he is kind of the consummate gym rat, ultimate in intensity, and Gronk is the guy waving his shirt, having a good time, saying, "Run by, guys, tell me what to do."
Yeah, because Gronk is just, he was built to be an NFL tight end. He really, I'm certain that Gronk works hard. Like, he lifts and does all the physical stuff. I'm sure he's very disciplined in his physical approach, but I mean, mentally, it literally is what he said. He's like, I just show up, Tom tells me where to go, and then I score a touchdown.
Well, he's doing, when we talk about, like, people, this is a job. The NFL is a job for a lot of guys. I know that we kind of sometimes make fun of, like, how it's guys playing a game and getting paid millions of dollars, but Gronk is literally doing it for fun right now, right? Like, he's got his championships.
It's all
he's still young. He could walk away at any point. And he does have, who knows what his career is in front of him in terms of television. We've already seen he's got possibilities, whether it's wrestling or, doing some kind of funny sitcom or who knows what he'll do. Like, he can walk away at any moment and you don't feel like he's going to miss it one bit after that.
Well, see, that's the thing. He might not let on to it, but I think all these guys miss it to some degree. The Sunday part of it. It's the rest of it. It's the Monday through Saturday preparation and everything else. It's training camp. That's the stuff that I think these guys never miss. But the actual competition, I think any competitor almost at any level misses that, and then that's why Gronk is back now.
But he's going to for sure retire whenever Brady does. That's 100% a guarantee.
And you guys, I mean, you guys like do actually believe what he said last night about not practicing on Friday, right? That he takes Fridays off. Did you guys catch that part where Friday's red zone days? Like, I don't need to practice that. I know everything already. He's like, I'll be there for first down and second down on Wednesday, Thursday, but I don't practice on Friday. It's red zone day, and I already know everything about the red zone. I'm a big tight end. Throw it up to me. I got it.
I think he played that up, of course, because it was funny, but there's no shot he practices on Friday. I bet you Gronk hardly practices at all. He doesn't get contacted for one play during the week in practice, I think. That's probably the agreement he made with Arians, too. He's like, yeah, man, I've always been beat up. Guys are always hitting my thighs. I can't walk in the morning. I just don't want to practice. Can I just show up and play with Tommy?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Or else
Tommy will tell me what to do.
Yeah, I don't need to do anything else.
Or else, as add to that, Gronk is a surefire Hall of Famer. Yeah, no doubt. I was going to say the greatest tight end of all time. I guess that is probably more in debate, right? Maybe Tony Gonzalez or
maybe. I'm actually. I have the stats pulled up right now. I mean,
Right.
he's not going to. The only reasonable thing that he could break is the all-time touchdowns for a tight end. I don't know when this was updated. If it was updated during the season, but he needs 21 more. There's no shot he's catching another, or he's getting another 7,000 receiving yards. He'd have to play 7 more years. He's not doing that. I mean, he has said, "I'm only going to play with Tom Brady. I'm never catching balls from another quarterback." So I don't know how long Brady's planning on doing this, but we'll see.
Hey, how about Brendan this morning, listening from Crested Butte, Colorado? Says, I don't care what anybody thinks. Carolina versus all y'all. Good morning, Brendan, out in Colorado. If you're further than that, well, we had Wyoming with Eric the other day. We've had some, I think, tropical locations, or at least we did Labor Day weekend, I think, down in some islands or something. Would love to hear where you're listening. If you're listening from a great distance, and even if you're not, check this morning we do it on the live video chat, YouTube, Facebook Live, also up and rolling on Twitter. Hit us up at 803-404-6100. Andy says, good morning. Where do you think we stand today as compared to last year at this time? Talking about Gamecock football and doing it on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line at 803-404-6100. We'll answer that question first when we come right back. You're listening to the early game here. It's 107.5 The Game.
Get some coffee.
Actually, did you change the lighting setup in there? It looks really good.
No, I think last Thursday I didn't have the lamp on. I have the lamp on right now.
Looks excellent. It's a slight glare in the top corner there off your map. Yeah, that one. But totally worth it.
Man, do you remember when the first game was last year? What date?
26th?
Yeah. This time last year, we weren't even playing football yet.
How about 3 games in?
Yeah. It's better.
It was Tennessee.
September 26th.
We got
You're
it. September 26th. You nailed it. What were the next 2 games last year?
It was the Florida, and then the whooping of Vanderbilt was this time last year.
1 and 2 with the win in game number. Is that what you're telling me?
Yep.
Pull that one up.
I mean, yeah, and then it was Auburn, so that was, the peak. The Auburn game was October 17th. I'm going to remember to scroll back to October 17th on Bill's Twitter and retweet his tweet from October 17th of last year.
Wow, so Carolina was 2 and 2. That's right. I forgot the 6 games to end the season.
How long is it going to take me to scroll back a year on Twitter?
Way too long.
It's going to be worth it. Yeah, this is going to take a long time. And then what was the game? We need Bill to come back for this. Actually, exactly how I'm going to put myself in the mindset of this time last year is just through Bill's Twitter.
haven't even talked about the important stuff yet that Reggie won again this week in the NASCAR picks.
Whoa.
I know. He's right up
Jen,
there
who
with
was in the
picks.
wrong? Who was in the wrong this weekend?
What do you mean?
I saw those videos of Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick.
Well, I don't know. They're both pretty strong in their convictions, aren't they?
When you were watching it, did you think, oh, somebody did something wrong? Or was it just racing?
To me, it's just racing. I really need to go back and watch. Was on the move, so I was kind of like not getting to fully watch the race, and I was trying to kind of go between that and the Georgia game, but I could only see it on my phone because on this houseboat that we were on, they didn't have channels that were of substance.
I had fun reading the comments about that because I saw the videos of Harvick saying, like, told him I was going to rip his head off, and then people were making fun of him for getting in at Chase Elliott's face but not taking his helmet off. And that's just, I guess, the code. If you're going to fight, take your helmet off. And if you're not going to fight, or if you're going to get in somebody's face, you better take your helmet off and be ready to fight. And Harvick was not.
It's it's COVID. He was being protective. Yeah,
that's thoughtful of him. I also like that there was the in stadium, or I don't know if they had a feed of the TV station, but you can hear when they're in each other's face, a girl on a microphone clearly like narrating it for television, and you can just hear it while they're in each other's face. And Harvick is not taking his helmet off while Harvick's in his face. It was a pretty entertaining scene.
How fun! Oh my gosh. Seems finally, later on he takes his helmet off and slams it on the hood of his car, and I'm sure they were like, but Chase says that Harvick's been doing this for a long time, always in his left side, blah blah blah. Yeah, that's racing.
Chase Elliott's really popular, isn't he?
Oh, hugely.
Yeah.
And Harvick has always been pretty popular, but yeah, Chase is kind of on the big young dog right now.
Yeah.
And Harvick has not really been terribly competitive until like the last couple of races. So he's probably like, well, now I finally have a chance to win. So he's just going to be angry and forceful. And
I didn't really realize how old Kevin Harvick was, but I guess he's been doing it forever. When I saw him in the interviews, I was like, man, he looks old.
Yeah, he's like 42, something like
45. I just looked up.
Is 48? Okay.
Yeah.
Jen, are you seeing a phone number pop up in there? I'm calling. Somebody said they couldn't get through.
Oh yeah. Didn't see it before though.
Well, that somebody was 12 years old. So
It works. It was me.
Yeah.
No, they said they couldn't get through. I think it's because nobody was there.
That's very possible too.
That could play a role. Yeah. No, I just decided I'm not going to answer phones today.
I don't blame you. I got a feeling they were entertaining yesterday, and
oh, this is interesting. I found an interesting tweet. I'm scrolling back on your Twitter to a year ago, Bill.
oh, good.
Where was Gamecock football 1 year ago today? The question from Andy on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Well, in kind of its own unique way, that conversation could end real quick, right? Because Bill, how did you remember the date exactly of September 26th from last year as being the first game since everything was pushed back?
I'm weird. That's really the only thing. Like I know dates. I know dates like that. Like I oddly enough, there's certain dates I just remember. This one was still close enough that I knew the exact date of it from last year.
So this time last year, technically the Gamecocks were still 0-0 and getting ready to play Tennessee in a big season opener at Williams-Brice Stadium that they eventually lost by 4 points, I believe it was. I was just looking back at the schedule. Yeah, 31-27 was that final score. Week number 2 was at Florida. 38-24 was that final score, and that was the classic Keyshawn Toney running through 5 Gamecocks there that got replayed all season long and will probably continue to be the highlight of Keyshawn Toney's life. And then it was week 3 at Vanderbilt, a 41-7 dominant performance for the Gamecocks. That was the 3 games in. Auburn was week number 4. So why don't, instead of going back to calendar year, I think Andy's point was 3 games into the season.
Yeah, can we pause you real quick? Kadarius Toney, because Keyshawn Toney was the tight end for South Carolina. That would have been the highlight of his life. That I agree with you on that. Kadarius Toney does play with the Giants now and could conceivably create another one.
Thank you. So 3 games in this year compared to last year. Bill, why don't you start there? Because, or Patrick, would you like to bring up a tweet from his timeline that you've gone back and looked at? That
Well,
specifically stands out.
I've been working myself back to Bill's famous Auburn tweet. Where he,
solid.
But I just landed, I've been scrolling, and I landed on November 22nd of last year, and Bill tweeted, how would people feel if Shane Beamer were head coach with Bobby Bentley as OC and Connor Shaw stays on staff? No inside info, just discussion around the table, and interested to hear feedback. And it's just funny now that everyone, I mean, Shane Beamer is the most popular hire. Everyone's on board with him, and the responses are all crazy. Like, the first response is no, just no. And then somebody's like, are you drunk? USC needs better than an unproven coach. Beamer is where he is because of his dad, not because he worked his way up from the bottom. Beamer isn't the right guy. No experience, not even a coordinator. And people just railing on Shane Beamer in the comments of this tweet. It's just interesting how one press conference and a couple, not I guess more than one press conference at this point, but basically the opening press conference changed everybody's minds immediately. And we forget that he wasn't necessarily everybody's number one candidate. It was November of 2020. The comments are very funny. Bill, there's over 100 replies to this tweet, and a lot of them are very negative.
Yeah, I mean, look, South Carolina fans were in a very bad place. I think they are in a better place today, but certainly Saturday night was an eye opener for some. Again, that maybe look, I haven't really been able to talk about it. I was a little surprised that early on I didn't think South Carolina necessarily looked prepared for Georgia. I thought they came out and Georgia put them on their heels pretty instantly, and you know, give credit to Zeb Nolan hits the long pass play down the sideline to Josh Van. Guys, I don't know this. I need to work on confirming this. I believe Josh Van has another year of eligibility because of the COVID year. And if so, I've started to think he might become the most important recruit that South Carolina has. Like if you can get him to come back for another year, I need to try and confirm that. If I don't know if Josh Van would want to do that. Obviously, last night he was highlighted on You Got Mossed. I don't know if people know what that is, but Randy Moss does a segment where people go up and make catches over top of the defensive back, not like Jalen Brooks, who was leaning back, phenomenal one-handed catch, but this is where you jump over a defensive back and just take it away from him. And Josh Van,
it's all my kids want to do. They just want to play moss, is what they call it. They just throw it up, go grab it, and that's all they did.
So he got that. So I guess he gets a pair of gloves sent to him. I saw the Cotton Gin had a picture out last night with honoring him with him underneath it. But you know, South Carolina fans certainly, I probably took a step backwards over the weekend, Patrick. But yeah, you go back to where they were in November last. What was it? You said November 20th.
November 22nd, that tweet came out.
So that was going into Thanksgiving weekend. I was going into the Georgia game. So at that point, Muschamp is gone, and you're taking beatings from LSU, Texas A&M, and Mississippi is where things kind of stand.
So let's get back to the original question. Andy meant to say 3 games in last year, 3 games in this year. How do you compare the two? Bill, you were saying that Carolina pretty much right on track, being 2-1 going through 3 games this year. Last year it was 1-2, but Auburn was coming up next. It was a dominant performance at Vanderbilt, but I think game number 1 was much more disappointing, losing to Tennessee in that season opener last year than this year's loss to Georgia, the number 2 team in the country that everybody knew was really good and was a 30-point favorite. So, Bill, how would you even begin to to frame the difference between 2021, 3 games in, and 2020 Gamecock football, 3 games in?
Well, there was so much negativity going into the season just with Will Muschamp as head coach, and then to lose the game the way they do to Tennessee with the ball bouncing off Cam Smith's foot on a punt. And certainly I think the negativity. And then the next week, Florida. Remember, Florida, everybody had enough after the 8-minute non-scoring drive to wrap up the game. I mean, yeah, you go back to that certainly, and while Vanderbilt was cathartic, because it was 41-7, I think is what the final score was. That first half, by the way, wasn't particularly good either. South Carolina's on track now. Certainly, again, there are things we thought or expected that South Carolina would be better at, running the football and offensive line play. I do think what Shane Beamer says is correct when he says it's fixable, because I refuse to believe that the offensive line is that bad that they just let guys run by them. This seems like a scheme thing. Now, can you get it fixed? I assume you can, but I feel like there should be a little bit more hope for the season right now as opposed to maybe what you had last year.
Randy just hit me up on Twitter at 775. He said, must win to show progress for the new staff this weekend. And I just replied, because it's a completely new coaching staff and a new era of Gamecock football, I think it's really difficult to compare, or maybe it's just kind of polar opposite from that standpoint. You talk about it, and Bill, I think it got to a near toxic point at this time last year. You're supposed to beat Vanderbilt. Nobody was really impressed with that. Now, some of us were more impressed after the fourth game and a big win against Auburn than others, and that, to me, was a great example of just how strange the Will Muschamp era was in a lot of ways. With that win against Auburn last year, was the win against Georgia the year before, but no sustained positive momentum hardly ever. Came up yesterday. The possibility these next 4 games are winnable for Carolina on their schedule here in 2021. It's a winnable stretch. Let me go through them real quick. You got Kentucky, you got Vanderbilt in this stretch. You got Troy, and what's the one other game I'm missing off the top of my head, Bill? You got in your mind?
Tennessee
at home, right? So in order, let me do it in order. So
in Knoxville.
Kentucky and Troy at home, at Tennessee, and then Vandy at home. Winnable games. Now Carolina is only going to be favored, I'm assuming, against Troy and Vanderbilt. Obviously they're a handful of point underdog. They opened up a 5-point underdog to Kentucky this weekend. I assume Tennessee will be favored in Knoxville on October 9th. But the possibility of a 4-game win streak, talked about it yesterday. Somebody asked, when's the last time that happened? That was at the end of the 2013 season, or we had to go all the way back to 2013 when Carolina won 4 games, and that's getting way ahead of ourselves. But just the possibility that you can see a stretch like that, going back to last year where you ended up starting 2-2 and then you lost 6 straight games in the season. And what you were talking about, Bill, especially after game number 2 last year, with the strange developments there at Florida with running the clock basically against yourself. And I think that broke a lot of people with Will Muschamp. The fact that it went down, how it went down, we say it all the time, right? It's not just that you lose. Sometimes it's how you lose. I think that really had a major impact on the confidence level of the program moving forward in a lot of ways. And this year, it's the exact opposite, right? I think we did the poll question yesterday about how you feel after the Gamecock 40-13 loss at Georgia. It wasn't that close. And like you said, Bill, Georgia, you could tell they put it in cruise control, I think is to put it mildly. But 84% of people who voted yesterday, and take it for what it's worth, it's unscientific, but it was 230 votes. Same as I felt going in, most of the votes, more than 52%, and then 32% of the people saying encouraged and fought hard. It's the optimism and the energy that Shane Beamer and his new coaching staff has brought in, to me, has 3 games in Gamecock football feeling just totally different than it felt 3 games into last year. But where are you on that?
Well, there's been there's the positive energy, and I think right now it is actually exactly what they need is Shane Beamer continuing to be positive and doing all he can to be positive with his team. You mentioned the video that came out last night about Climb and Derek Moore talking and everything like that, and there are going to be rough moments this year. There might be a very rough moment on Saturday night. You can't. I don't agree with people who are saying this is a must-win game. South Carolina's an underdog.
Is it a must not get blown out game?
I mean, for the fans, like I don't think Shane Beamer's losing the locker room. I don't think. But I think from a fan standpoint, they don't need to get blown out. But I think this is a team. I go back and I'm just comparing seasons. Steve Spurrier's first year team, what was it? South Carolina got blown out of the water. I know it was with Antonio Hefner, but they get blown out of the water by Alabama. Then they win a game, but then they go to Auburn. They got Antonio Hefner playing. They get blown out of the water there, and they play better later in the season. I know the schedule's apples to oranges comparison, but things can change and evolve, and that's part of this coaching staff. So we'll see. We'll continue to see if they do find a way to improve.
Interesting question from Andy. Appreciate it. Trying to look back 3 games in last year, 3 games in this year, keeping things in perspective. Relatively going to have some help with former Gamecock quarterback Perry Orth this coming up in about 45 minutes. 7:30 is when Perry is due to speak with us. I know he was excited about watching Peyton and Eli last night as well. We'll get his thoughts on that and the Gamecock quarterback situation specifically. Bill, haven't heard you break down what happened at Georgia with Zeb Nolan leaving early with an injury and Luke Doty coming in, and I think Patrick and I were relatively impressed. I think we pretty much, Patrick, I think you might have given a 6.5 on the scale of 1 to 10. I was saying a 7 out of 10. I'll get Bill's thoughts on that when we 803-404-6100. If you would like to join, it's the early game here on 107.5 The Game. Mandarin oranges, apple juice, and chicken salad was the combination yesterday that was thrown around on my floor. Boy, do I have more respect daily for Zero Res and the job that they do. Zero Res carpet and air duct cleaning. They've come out to my house a couple of times and done a great job getting our house looking and feeling its best. A new, fresh home feel that we certainly need with 3 boys from 8, 6, and it's that 1.5-year-old that is completely trashing the place these days. Fortunately, Zero Res has helped us out, and Zero Res does it differently than anybody else. They have a patented ZR water system where they crank up the pH in the water, no harsh chemicals involved, so nothing for me or my wife to be concerned about when it comes to our 3 kids always rolling around on the carpets. That's especially important to us at our house. Also, our carpets have stayed cleaner longer because no soapy residue left over to attract dirt back into the carpet. Your carpets can do that as well. Let Zero Res help you out. 3 rooms of carpet cleaned right now, $119 plus a free hallway. When you mention me, Tim Hill, give them a call at 803-262-4020. You can book online right now at ZeroResColumbia.com. That's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean. I'll let you take the live stream here, Patrick. I got to go roll out my recycling real quick.
All right. I'm just reading the Emmy results. The Emmys happened 2 days ago, and I didn't even know that it was going on. Just very happy to see that Ted Lasso won. Craig, is this the 14 or 15-year-old kid you're talking about again? Who is this kid? Jaden Bradford. Class of 2024. That makes him a sophomore. Sophomore. Tim, did you know the Emmys were 2 nights ago?
Nope. No clue. I heard you saying Ted Lasso hit up a bunch.
Yeah, I'm reading through all of them right now. I guess I need to watch Mayor of Easttown. You watch Succession, right?
Nope.
No.
No.
Oh,
Good?
oh, so good.
Nice. Good to know.
I love that show.
Gotta check it out. I like who's the main character there. What's his name? Is it
Which
Cox?
one?
The older guy? His last name is Cox, I think, right? Is it Brian Cox?
Yeah, Brian Cox. He's like the patriarch. And then Macaulay Culkin's brother is one of the kids. Kieran Culkin.
He wet the bed in Home Alone. That was the concern. He was the cousin. Fuller.
He was in that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's a little kid. He did the eyebrows raised, I believe,
Yeah,
with the
had
glasses. I think it was with the Coke, right?
Exactly.
Or that was a punishment. You gotta sleep. That guy's got to sleep in your bed.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yep, that'll blow your mind when you
Fuller.
get back to that.
Cousin Fuller.
Yep. Santa, he's omnipresent.
He's become kind of a star recently.
Really? Didn't know that.
He was in Fargo. Fargo's really good.
I've heard that. I've never seen it.
Probably need to watch The Crown too. It's so hard to watch shows during football season.
It's just hard for me to catch up on shows, period. I have to really work hard at it.
The only thing I'm watching right now is Ted Lasso.
And they just won a ton of awards.
Yeah, first ever award for Apple TV, Apple Plus.
Well deserved.
And I think The Crown was the first non-HBO show to win Best Drama since like Breaking Bad or something like that.
Crazy. All right, you guys are up.
I feel like I'm Aaron Rodgers, telling everybody to relax. Randy, you hit me up first with this tweet that I've retweeted, just saying too soon. Saturday, a must win. And it's year number 1, game number 4. Now, Todd, the Alabama fan, Todd, don't you understand what Gamecock football is. Todd says, yes, this is a must-win for Carolina Saturday night. If they lose to Kentucky, all the naysayers will come out. The energy around the team will start to dip. Everything will go back to the curse of the chicken, and nothing has changed. New coach, same old results. So, yes, this is a must-win. And then he ends with Earl Tide.
Worry about Ole Miss in 2 weeks. Don't give up 100.
Papa Joe says, I think this is a must-win game for the fans, but not necessarily the team. Obviously, this team is still rebuilding, but as the fans, we want to see as many wins as possible. Yeah, of course. But must-win means
45.
Things are really, really bad if you lose. And that's not where this team is, man. It was 8 losses each of the last 2 seasons. Have you guys watched Kentucky this year? I realize they didn't look really impressive against Chattanooga, but the week before they looked really pretty impressive against Missouri. A couple of mistakes cost them a couple of touchdowns. Otherwise, I think they would have won that game handily. The program is just in a much better place right now than South Carolina. I get that you don't want that if you're a Gamecock fan, but that's just reality, and that's why I think there's nowhere close to a must-win. Now, would it be nice to win? Sure. Fortunately, we got 2 more hours to discuss here on the early game.
This is Gamecock basketball.
Thank you, Chuck and Z, or Z, or Chuck. So, not sure how to address Chuck and Z.
I want to know what Todd looks like.
Todd, the Alabama fan, now you're requesting pictures now?
I just want to know. I just want to hear him talk. Actually, I want to picture everything in his as he says it.
So this is the fun game about radio, right? So let's hear your description of him that you've built up, your mental image. What does Todd look like to Patrick?
Let me read.
Because you know people did that with you, especially early on, right?
Yeah. But it's much harder with just texts.
Right.
I mean, I really don't think of it. I don't picture him as like a redneck.
Is he Todd from Christmas Vacation movie?
I don't know, Marco.
Right. I don't know, Tim.
No, Todd from Christmas Vacation was definitely not an Alabama fan.
No. Todd from Christmas Vacation probably never saw a sporting event, period.
Right. Maybe tennis. You seem like a tennis guy. They had looked like they had like matching tennis warm-ups.
Yep.
I'm thinking mid to late 30s.
I love the profiling.
Short. No facial hair though. Bald.
Wait, what is short exactly? I need some numbers here.
5'6".
Okay.
Bald. But clean shaven.
Bald, clean shaven.
Husky but not huge.
That's a great description.
That's what I think Todd looks like.
Oh man, that mental image is just nowhere where I even was close to Todd on that.
I guess now that I'm describing it, I just described like a
Younger
like
Jason
a country
Alexander.
Jeff Ross. Yeah.
I like the Jason Alexander one.
Yeah, Jason Alexander, but really not bad.
Jeff Ross was good too. That's fantastic. I think anytime I hear Alabama fan, I just see our boy Shannon, ring hat guy. That's what pops in my head immediately.
Yep.
Guy who will wear a national championship ring on his head, who works at Walmart, who doesn't go to many games, but does go to SEC Media Days. MIT. Well done, Craig.
Right.
Stand up. He's got the Alabama version of that. We've got a move, a location. Bill, if you're not feeling well, man, feel free to dip out.
What happened to everyone preaching patience? PATIENTS. That's tough.
Yeah, I did hear that, Mac. That was going into halftime. I think Matt dropped the Village Idiot on the ESPN broadcasts Saturday night.
I think he tries to get that in every time he does a South Carolina update.
That's
Oh,
cool.
yeah. And then Todd added a special message just for you. He says, Patrick, we can give up 100 to Ole Miss as long as we score 101.
With a long roll tide, a lot of O's.
Right.
That's the one that made me just start thinking about what he looks like, and I want to know how. I think I like him.
Like, okay, fair enough.
I'm still not sure. I just want to know if, like, when he kept saying "Roll Tide," I want to know. That's why I want to know what he looks like, and like if he's actually funny or accidentally funny. The one thing is the run-on sentence. He actually has started putting punctuation in some of his messages, I think.
Oh, interesting.
But you go back and there are some like 25, 30 word messages with no commas or periods, and it's just tough to read.
Now Bill's back on the move.
Hold on.
There you go.
Hold on.
We're watching Bill off the air right now try to get himself situated. It does not look like it's going well.
Okay. Yeah, we weren't gonna be sitting the full time like that. This will work better.
You're laid up on the couch now?
On the couch.
Perfect.
A little bit better, yeah. Oh boy. Felt like a lot of work.
All right, we'll give Bill a couple of minutes here to catch his breath. Top of the hour.
Yeah.
We're in the intro.
And McAllister Communications, is that anything?
Yeah, that is that's for me.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. 7:10.
What time are we gonna do it?
7:10.
7:10. Okay.
I've got the other two up. And then I know we have Perry at 7:30.
Individually, arm talent, I think, is the one term in sports that is at the top of my pet peeve list. Collectively, as a team, I think must win is right there as well. I always ask you that. Or what? If you're going must win. And that's why this makes zero sense to me. It was brought up by Randy on Twitter, why I'm bringing it up this morning, calling this game Saturday night, Carolina and Kentucky, a must win. It's year number one. What Chuck says, man, the guy's been there for 3 minutes. Calm down. Bubba, for the next 2 years, no games are must win. They are all would like to win. Kind of agree with that standing there. Many more of you are weighing in this morning as well. Damon on Twitter. Only must wins, in my opinion, are Eastern Illinois, Troy, and Vandy. I'm willing to wait on the rest. Shane could be our Frank, Damon says. Give South Carolina much stability for a long time. Bill, would you like to weigh in on Randy's question of must win? Is that what South Carolina is looking at against Kentucky on Saturday?
No, it's not a must win. There are must wins. Ask Florida State about beating Jacksonville State. Those games certainly are must wins. There are certain ones. Usually right now, the must wins are the games that we're not going to label as a must win because they should win, right? Eastern Illinois and to a lesser extent, East Carolina was that. Kentucky is not yet. Now, with all that being said, to big picture, not for the fan base, right? Not for the fan base. Big picture program defining victory, though. or I should say, big picture on Saturday, a win does a ton for you. I don't think a loss hurts you. Look, don't go get beat 54-0. Don't go out and throw 4 interceptions and Luke Doty, be sacked 8 times and it just be so bad that people question the coaching staff afterwards. But at the same time, we knew that this was going to be a long-term rebuild. Vegas is not predicting South Carolina to win this game. The over/under for the season was 3.5 wins. There's a reason for that. So, at the end of the day, this is not a must-win. Is it a game that, like you said, if they win on Saturday night, 10-9, 14-13, 2-0, that we celebrate and they're 3-1? Oh yeah, yeah. But if they lose, it's you just move on. South Carolina's not the stable program that Kentucky's at. Kentucky's the better program right now. Right now, today, Kentucky's the better program. That can change. It doesn't have to be that way in 2022 or 2023 or so forth and so on. But as we sit here on 9/21/21, Kentucky's the better program today. But that can change. South Carolina was the better program from 2000 until 2013 out of those two teams. Throw in maybe 2014 as well when South Carolina went up there, and even in a loss, JoJo Kemper, South Carolina lost that game, but they were still probably a better program. But things have now changed. So, no, it's not a must-win because, it's not going to be – to me, there's a lot that's going to continue to happen, especially in the month of October with the next 3 games that you mentioned that are more winnable, that South Carolina should be favored in 2, that can help maybe get to 5. If South Carolina's 5-2 after the first 7, Patrick, I think you had 5-2, right?
Yeah.
And then you had them losing the last 5.
Yep.
Right.
You had them 5-2 with a chance to find a win somewhere over the last 5 to get to a bowl. So, I think both of us had them 5-2. I can't remember. I might have taken the Homer side.
Kentucky was one of those 2 in my breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm with you on that, Patrick.
Not many people that's picking them to win. So, no, it's not a must-win. But certainly in terms of helping the program, it would be tremendous. There's no way to not say that.
Well, I guess it's how you define that must-win thing. And I think I'm probably with RL on the YouTube live stream. He says, seem like must-win games are games that will get you fired if you lose them. I doubt we have any on the schedule this year. I can tell you right now, you don't have any on the schedule this year unless something just absolutely drastic happens there. On the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, Scott says, I think this week is probably a must-win if the Gamecocks are going to make a bowl game. Okay, I can see that. I can see you putting it that way. Another anonymous texter says, it's a must-not-play crappy game. And I think there's a lot to that, except, again, I always come back with, for what? I mean, you're 4 games in. You got plenty of time to turn that around. Not a trend that you want, something that certainly not what you want to see from the Gamecock perspective. Brian says if you want to change the program, you have to beat those other programs that are better than you. You don't get better beating a bunch of FCS schools. No doubt, Brian. But you don't have to do it in week number 4 of year number 1. And that's what, Patrick, I think you get fascinated by this, right? The preseason talk versus the in-season emotion of Gamecock fans, and how we can very quickly on this show and in the conversation feel like in get tunnel vision and sidetracked or just caught up in momentum one way or another. There might have been somebody on this show got caught up in the positive momentum of the Auburn victory last year a little bit, as you have gone back on Twitter a little bit today. But, I mean, it happens every year. I thought this year would be a bit of an exception, especially, I mentioned the social media put out by Gamecock football yesterday. The climb was the theme, and Derek Moore was narrating and the whole thing. I think it's an excellent theme, but I guess the point of contention might be how far down is this program climbing from? Because from what I've seen the last couple of years, it's a deep hole, man. It's down. There are a lot of rungs in that ladder to climb, and beating Kentucky isn't anywhere down where I have Carolina right now in their area that they need to climb out from. That is a ways up the ladder, in my opinion. I guess some of you out there see that maybe that metaphorical ladder a little bit differently than me. What about you, Bill?
Well, beating Kentucky, Missouri, and Tennessee consistently is the early stages. That does need to happen early on. And again, reestablishing yourself in that vein is something that it is pretty high up there in terms of needs to get done within the first 2 or 3 years. But Kentucky's a pretty stable program right now. Mark Stoops is what now? He's 51-51. Is that right? I mean, I think 2-1 this year. He's 49-50 going in, or they're 3-0, I guess. So he's now 52-50. But the bottom line is that's a stable program. Missouri's got Eli Drinkowitz, who is a coach that I like. I think he's doing good things there. I don't know how long he'll be at Missouri. And then Josh Heupel in Tennessee, we'll see. We'll see what that situation continues to evolve into. They get Florida this weekend, and they're a 22-point underdog, and South Carolina sees them in 2 weeks. But with all that being said, I think yes, there is an element of this is a measuring stick game. Georgia was a telltale game. Georgia, we watched and we said, okay, how far away are you on the lines of scrimmage? Because that's where that game is always decided. The defensive line didn't perform as well as I thought. Okay, they need to get a lot better. The offensive line was awful. But again, I think that is just schematics right now. There's just things that are happening that are ridiculous. Kentucky is a measuring stick, a barometer game. You go out there and win the game, it tells me that you're right there. You're right there with Kentucky now, and getting better players, continuing to recruit and get better players. You can pass them in the next year or two. You can get past them. You go out and get your doors blown off. You go, boy, we got a long way to go to catch Kentucky. Don't even worry about Florida and Georgia right now. You worry about catching Kentucky.
If South Carolina goes 5-2 during these first 7 games, they go 3-1 in this 4-game stretch here, this important 4-game stretch. Who do you want the one to be? Do you want it to? Would you rather beat Tennessee or Kentucky?
Tennessee.
Because you would rather beat Tennessee, or you'd rather Tennessee beat a loss?
Tennessee. South Carolina does more recruiting against Tennessee. It's a first-year head coach.
So, Bill, I think you're answering it wrong. He's saying what one loss would you prefer?
He's saying. Well, I could have just asked
sorry.
it easier. Who would you rather beat, Kentucky or Tennessee? And that's basically the question. But
Right.
I thought the easy answer was going to be you want to win at home. As I guess from a recruiting standpoint, because I was just looking at some of the visitor lists, and it seems like there's going to be a ton of guys in town, a couple big time prospects in town. You're going to be on the SEC network. They're going to be in Columbia. It's a night game at Williams-Brice Stadium. Like, this is a real chance to show off that environment, and if you can have a good performance attached to it, it could be a big swing in some of the recruitments of certain kids, and you're not going to get that same swing if you beat Tennessee in Knoxville. And I feel like Tennessee might be just digging their own grave this year, and kids aren't going to want to go there anyway.
Yeah, see, I disagree with Bill on this thing, and I'm kind of more on what you were just saying there, Patrick. I want to get more into that. Would love to hear more opinions. Which is the more important team to beat on the schedule in 2021 here in the next few weeks? Kentucky at home, Tennessee on the road. We'll do that when we come right back. 803-404-6100 is the number into the program. It's the early game. It's 107.5 again.
This is South Carolina Heritage basketball coach Dawn Staley, and you're listening to the home of the Gamecocks.
Oh, this goes right into the conversation, right? Part of the festivities, the atmosphere that will be going down at Williams-Brice Stadium. You guys heard about this? It's the South Carolina Boating and Fishing Alliance. They're going to be hanging out at Gamecock Village right across the street, Williams-Brice Stadium on the Bluff Road side there. Some of the most iconic boats, fishing tackle brands. It is a massive display out there of boats and fishing gear, all kinds of stuff. If you're into anything like that, any kind of the outdoor activities with the first of its kind boating and fishing exhibition, just hang out in Gamecock Village before the game Saturday night over at Williams-Brice Stadium, and you're going to see whatever kind of brand you're looking for, all going to be out there for sure, like Tidewater boats, Falcon Bass boats, anything you can think of, Yamaha Marine, all those name brands are going to be out there. And if you're one of those, I'm kind of like one of those, right? It's one thing to see a picture of it or to be on the internet or the whole thing, but I feel like I need to be in the presence of something, especially if it's going to be a major investment like a boat. If you're looking for some fishing to help your fishing game, to up your fishing game. I feel like you need to see it. You need to touch it, the whole thing. That's exactly what you can do right across from Williams-Brice Stadium. A first-of-its-kind boating and fishing exhibition. This Saturday, it starts at 2:30. Prize packages, membership raffle going to be done on site. Plenty of family-friendly activities in Gamecock Village with the South Carolina Boating and Fishing Alliance.
shepherdsglass.com.
Yeah, I disagree with that, RL. I think we know what to expect, which is not that much, right? They're reasonable. A bowl game is a bonus kind of season. I mean, when you start your season by saying if you get to a bowl game, it's a successful season, you got low expectations immediately. But reasonable expectations, I think. If Kentucky doesn't win, 8 games this year, I think it's a pretty disappointing season for them.
What was their over-under?
Good question. Patrick, you got that in front of you anywhere?
8.5.
It was 8.5?
Yeah, I think it was 8.5. They had the same over-under as Missouri. I'm putting the Kentucky-Tennessee thing on a poll question.
Attaboy.
Yeah, there you go. It is nasty out there. You can kind of see it back behind me. It is
Yeah.
you can see I got the raft over there just in case. I wasn't sure, just in case the lake came up.
Good thinking.
Never know. Float away.
The question is, would the water carry the raft to the couch so you could just roll off of it onto
It's a good question.
the raft? Because if it goes the other way, I think you're in trouble.
I'm hoping the couch floats. What was did you ever see that broke? Remember the 30 for 30 broke? And the attorney was talking about the players that would come in and that their buddies would pitch him ideas. And one of it, he wouldn't name who it was a football player for the Saints. And a buddy had pitched him, was like, hey, what we need to do is have furniture that when a hurricane comes in, it floats and it gets covered up. And then when the hurricane and the water wipes goes away, you just find your furniture that floated away. And that's how you get.
You know who it was?
Do I know who it was?
Yeah, I think it was Mark Brunell.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But that was his point of like, he's like, all these athletes, these people come to with these ideas, and the athletes are like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I'll do that. So I was up yesterday morning at 7 a.m. And I just like glanced over at, I just got on Twitter for a second. And I saw the tweet that you put out with, the thing. So I just hopped on the Periscope thing. It's kind of interesting because if people are watching via Periscope, they can hit the little heart button. So you'll be watching and something you might say, somebody will like it. So little hearts will just start going up after you say it. Kind of funny. No, Bubba, I'm not in bed. I'm just laying on my couch. I'm still a little sick from I've been sick the last few days. We're going to do the show and then take a nap. It'll definitely be a nap. Oh. Patrick, I even watched a lot of NFL on Sunday. I was all into the NFL. I unfortunately dozed off during the middle section of the Ravens-Chiefs game, but woke up in time to catch the very end with the touchdown, the fumble, and then going for it on 4th and 1.
The fumble was brutal. I was playing Clyde Edgerley in fantasy too, so I loved that.
Oh. I think the Sam Darnold experiment's working well.
So far, I mean, did you see what the Saints were dealing with? It was
Yeah, they had
insane.
nobody. They had nothing. What was it? In Book was in charge of substitutions.
Yeah, and
I had
Sean
to go
Payton's
back and look. I was like, wait,
administrative assistant.
wasn't he at Notre Dame last year?
Yeah, running the substitution box.
Yeah.
Fascinating texts in on the Quick Air Heating and Air text line. 803-404-6100. Chris says, in all honesty, if they wanted to make excuses this season, they could have kept Muschamp and saved a pile of money. That's just my 2 cents. Anonymous texter, give Coach Bremer a break. Fans, Muschamp really left the team in bad shape. That's how I have to translate that text. And John K says, what happened to everyone preaching patience? It's all coming from the must-win question. And Patrick brought up a good point. He has put out a poll question at _Patrick Perrette. I've retweeted it at Tim Hill 1075. The wording of the question is specific here. And Patrick, what does it say exactly? How did you put it?
The exact wording is, if South Carolina could only win one of these games, which would you prefer? Kentucky at home or Tennessee on the road?
Bill, you say Tennessee. Let's hear it.
Well, I think Tennessee and South Carolina are more on the same plane right now as opposed to Kentucky and Missouri. I know people don't like hearing this. Kentucky and Missouri, to me, are kind of tier 3 right now, although Florida played pretty good this weekend, but it's Georgia, it's Florida, and then it's kind of Kentucky and Missouri. Tennessee, again, you recruit a lot more with. Look, I've seen situations, Patrick, where you talk about it should be a great environment on Saturday night. Right now, we know of 3 official visitors. Antonio Williams, the big-time wide receiver from right here at Dutch Fork, that's a major priority for Justin Stepp in South Carolina. Jamari Lyons, defensive tackle out of Florida, and now Jayshawn Barham, the defensive end linebacker out of Maryland. So you got those 3 guys, and I understand it's important. You got a whole other slew of guys coming in. Oscar Delp is not coming in until next weekend, for those wondering. But with all that being said, the atmosphere can impress those guys. The coaching staff can then turn around and sell those guys on like, hey, here's what you come play for. Here's the environment you can come be in. You can be the guy that turns this thing around. You can be the guy that we used to win this. What was it, Tim? I'm trying to remember. I think it was the Auburn game, Patrick. Patrick, I say the name Cliff Matthews. Do you know who that is?
Clay Matthews' dad?
No, that's Bruce Matthews. Cliff's a little different.
No, I've
Bill's
heard the
mind just got blown, I think.
What? Cliff Matthews obviously was the high 4-star defensive end from Sherrall back during the early part of the Spurrier era. Was a monster guy that South Carolina had to get. It was between South Carolina and Georgia. He came in for the South Carolina-Auburn game, the famous South Carolina-Auburn game that I think kind of changed the culture a little bit at South Carolina, in which South Carolina lost. And after the game, Spurrier was like, look, you're the guy that can come in and play defense and keep them from converting third downs. You can be the guy that we need that changes that. And Cliff Matthews, when he committed to South Carolina, cited that conversation they had in a loss where Steve Spurrier, the well-known recruiter, Steve Spurrier, pointed out to Cliff Matthews, hey, this is why I need you here. We can do something big because I need a player like you. In this situation with Tennessee, my opinion is you're trying to climb over the Volunteers. And look, quite frankly, whether it matters or not, beating Tennessee, that name still resonates more than it does beating Kentucky. Look at how people are treating Kentucky right now on the text message and live stream. They're like, oh, Kentucky's still garbage. No, Kentucky's got a better football program than Tennessee. But beating Tennessee in Knoxville will resonate a little bit more with folks than beating Kentucky at home. I think you get more out of a Tennessee victory. The atmosphere on Saturday night is what can impress recruits, and just showing that you're competitive.
Do you see where Jayshawn Barham was last week?
Penn State.
Yeah.
You're not Penn State. You're not. There's not even winning on Saturday night. You're not gonna. Look. That was an incredible environment. That was. He knows where Penn State is. Penn State might be heading. I mean, I don't know. Penn State and Iowa look like they're on a collision course for a Big Ten championship game. And then,
Iowa and Maryland.
I'm sorry.
I was got to get through Maryland in 2 weeks.
Maryland.
It's a blackout, 8 p.m. Bird Stadium.
You just don't.
I'm with Anthony on this one. You always take care of your backyard. I think, Bill, you're going back to the Spurrier era. You're going from Lou Holtz to Steve Spurrier, man. That's a much different place where the Gamecock program was than Will Muschamp to Shane Beamer. I think the current recruits have got to see it for themselves, and I think you're maybe not getting enough credence to when things don't go well on a Saturday night against Kentucky, how the environment can be maybe the exact opposite of the selling point that Shane Beamer and this recruiting staff needs. It can get ugly real quick, and especially the way just what we're hearing about Kentucky, right? Gamecock fans got used to beating Kentucky, are used to beating Kentucky. They don't like losing to Kentucky. You can do it away from home against Tennessee, can be kind of put away a little differently, I think, than losing to Kentucky right in front of your face, coming up here in week number 4, coming off a relatively uncompetitive game. I get it. Maybe it was that 5-point swing there at the end of the first half, and then Georgia kind of imposing its will in the third quarter that makes me think they're, up until then, relatively competitive. But South Carolina didn't threaten to win that game. Not that they were supposed to, being a 30-point underdog. But being an underdog to Kentucky, you can pull out a win here in the SEC. I think there are a lot of Gamecock fans who have watched the first or watched the second game especially. We're getting a lot of comments about the offensive line in particularly right now being unable to block or even touch guys a lot of times, questioning the coaching staff and their communication and the whole thing. I think you shore that up real quickly and infuse a bunch of positive momentum with a win against Kentucky at home this Saturday night that you would have to be regaining if it goes the opposite and you win the game against Tennessee. Don't get me wrong. Tennessee win would be big this weekend too. It's obviously important, and those recruiting battles are significant in a lot of ways. And where that program is, I just think with NCAA violations looming, Tennessee is they've got a ceiling right now. Josh Heupel's going to be handcuffed eventually. Kentucky is not that, and Mark Stoops clearly has his program on the incline, and it seems to be a pretty sharp incline that Carolina can end real quick, or certainly press pause on real quick. Patrick, I saw you shaking your head over there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I think a lot of what I'm projecting right now is just how little regard I have for Josh Heupel. So I don't even care about Tennessee right now. I think they're going to be screwed no matter what, because I think kids are going to go meet his office and they're going to be like, this guy is such a dork. I'll go play for Shane Beamer. No thanks.
Patrick
Tennessee.
Barrett, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, your whole team transferred and you hired this guy? Okay. I'll check out
At
Kentucky.
_ Patrick Perrette, where you can hit him up on Twitter, where he's got the poll question now. If South Carolina could only win one, what would you go with, Kentucky or Tennessee? Interested to hear how former Gamecock quarterback Perry Orth answers that question. He joins us next here. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
We are rolling into the month of October, just about a week and a half away. And so, yep, your time in your pool, may be about done for 2021. But that doesn't mean you stop getting it serviced. That doesn't mean you let it become all black and gooey and yucky. I mean, you've still got to continue to maintain your pool. That way, when the spring rolls around, it doesn't cost you extra to get it correct. That's why you need to use Corley Pool Solutions. 803-445-8109. Flat rate pricing, including all the chemicals. They do pool maintenance, again, at a monthly flat rate. And what that means is they'll come out, they'll take care of the chemicals, they'll take care of the back sweeping, the testing of the chemicals, the vacuum and netting, all the little things that go along with making sure your pool is maintained properly. Even in the off season, when you're not using it, they continue to make sure that pool is running well, so that when the first great day to jump in, whether it's March or April, maybe even May, comes around, it's ready to be used. Because a lot of people don't realize they wait too long. Then in the spring, they've got to pay a whole bunch of extra money for chemicals they really shouldn't have had to use, because they could have maintained their pool throughout the winter. 803-445-8109. 20 years of experience in the business. Don't let your pool go to waste this year. Use Corley Pool Solutions.
One texter has a good answer to your original question, Patrick. In the 4-game stretch, if you go 3-1, lose to Troy, that'll make 3 teams look bad, but at least you win the 2 SEC games.
Skylar Mead will be happy. Do you see the reply to the poll question on Twitter by Turk Ferguson?
No.
Would you rather kiss your sister or have a chopstick inserted into your urethra?
That's funny. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, that's funny. I watched that. Also, listened to. I never heard Norm Macdonald. I guess he did it on a comedy album. Being the analyst with Jim Lampley doing a football game that he had money on. It's pretty funny. But that was definitely Pat McAfee last night. I think he had to cover 11.5, and it was at 18 there at the end. They throw to the end zone, and you could tell he was invested.
Yeah, I mean, well, he made. I don't even know if the numbers out there, but I think it was 9 figures what he got from FanDuel.
Wow. Yeah, he's doing all right.
Who?
McAfee.
Pat McAfee.
Oh. You know what? That actually would be, and y'all might have just said this when I had you on mute. As good as Peyton and Eli are, have two decent commentators who have a side and the over-under broadcast the game.
Right? That's where it's going to get to for sure, man.
Like 2 guys who have a financial investment in the game, let them broadcast the game for a little bit.
Or maybe just put them on the screen visually just to see
Yeah.
their reactions. You know, you have to hear from them. And just check in periodically where Peyton can just mess them. Or Eli. Eli's really good at that. Eli's sneaky good. I like him a lot.
Yeah. What did he say last night? Good call, Romo.
Yeah, let's go, remember.
Yeah, I don't know, David. I think the personnel I think the personnel on the offensive line is better than they're showing. There's something scheme wise. Oh boy. There is something scheme wise that is just completely wrong.
Did you guys see the picture that CBS New Orleans station put up at halftime of the Saints-Panthers game on Twitter?
Nah.
It was just Saints down 17-0 at the half. Puts their picture.
Oh, yeah. Is it Brian Burns? Yeah. Burns retweeted it. He's like, y'all, look, that was wrong, dog.
That was wrong. Also, did you happen to catch, Bill, you said you watched a lot of NFL. Did you happen to catch the David Culley decision?
No, I didn't see the Browns game.
It was going to be 4th down, but he could have accepted a penalty to make it 3rd and 10, but declined it to make it 4th and 2 and punted. Yeah.
What? Say that again.
There was a penalty. They went for a 3rd down. They attempted a 3rd down, didn't make it. It was 4th and 2, but there was a penalty on the defense that could have made it a retry, and it could have been 3rd and 10. But they decided to decline the penalty, keep the 4th and 2, and punt.
Oh, I did see. Well, I didn't see that happen, but I saw. He said, "What was it?"
He said he was frustrated with the offense, so I just said, "Screw it, we're gonna punt." Yeah.
Did you get a chance to watch the end of that Cowboys-Chargers game?
Yeah.
Or I mean,
McCarthy said the clock that I was watching went off.
Perry's ready.
Thanks, Jeff.
You're in a $5.5 billion stadium, but he couldn't find another clock, so he just let the time run out and called a timeout at the last second.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So
We kick off the second half of the show right out to the Love Chevy phone lines, and our buddy, former Gamecock quarterback Perry Orth, joining us for the next half hour or so. Perry, how you doing this morning?
Good. Doing well. The weather outlook for this weekend is it's football weather, so everybody should be in a packed Williams-Brice. And if it wasn't enough to get to the game already, I don't think you guys want to be listening to that crew that's called the ECU game. So that's enough reason to go buy a ticket and get into Williams-Brice.
Sure. And being on the radio, we need to obviously tell you, you can always listen to Tommy and Todd here on 107.5 The Game.
And yep, and that was coming next. And then if not, can't make it to the game, turn on the radio.
Well, Perry's a pro there. Perry, let's start you off with the question that Patrick's just thrown out, where our conversation has kind of evolved to today. If Carolina can win one game, what's more important? And this is why I love having you on. You don't have to give us the old coach speech, one game at a time, and they're all important, and the next game's the most important. If Carolina could only win one, you win Kentucky at home or at Tennessee this year. Which one would you choose?
You said, what was the first one? I missed that.
Kentucky at home this Saturday or at Tennessee in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think the Kentucky game for two reasons. One, because the Kentucky has had our number for the last however many years. I mean, we've only beaten them once in the last 6 or 7 years, which is just incredible to think about. So getting another win there, winning at home is incredibly important, as we all know. And then ultimately, I think that we'll gain more respect throughout the conference. I think beating Kentucky. I think right now Tennessee is in a very similar situation that we are. New coach, kind of trying to find an identity again as a program. And Kentucky's kind of you know what you're going to get with them: physical defense, ball control offense, even though their QB can throw it around pretty well this year, better than in years past. So I think a Kentucky win would be better for us.
He's former Gamecock quarterback Perry Orth. Got to break down what we saw at Georgia over the weekend, where you got your first career start. Zeb Nolan goes in there, gets the start back in where he played high school ball. His dad coaches right down the road, and then unfortunately for him, after hitting one long pass, pretty much gets his hand stepped on, has to go out of the game, and Luke Doty comes in. And from our unexpert eyes, Patrick and I thought we saw Luke Doty play pretty well. I think he got pretty good marks from the ESPN crew that was doing the game as well. What about you, Perry? How did you see the quarterback situation for the Gamecocks on Saturday night?
Yeah, it's terrible what happened to Zeb. With Luke, I thought he played the ball, or he played very well. He threw the ball very well. He threw it down the field very accurate too, which is really encouraging. Encouraging that Josh Vann can be that deep threat that take the top off the defense, go up and make a play down the field. I don't know if you guys saw or not, but he was featured on the You Got Moss segment of Monday Night Football, which is always really cool to get Carolina some recognition. And I know that was pretty special for Josh, but Luke, he threw the ball well. He just seemed in control. He kind of had an aura of confidence about him. And you can tell the rest of the team rallies around him as well. I think that he's going to be a quarterback that we can count on for the next 3-4 years. He's a guy that he loves the game. He loves working hard. He's a kind of a film junkie. He's always watching film and trying to prep himself the best that he can. And then the encouraging part too is that he has all of those great work ethic traits, but he's also a dynamic athlete. And I think when he's truly 100%, which I don't believe he is, I saw him hobble a couple times, and I know he tried to keep it under wraps. And I think that again shows the kind of kid, kind of the competitor that he is. He's going to be a good player for us. I actually have no doubt that he will be. It doesn't mean he's going to play perfect every game, but it means he's going to be a good quarterback for South Carolina, and someone we can lean our hat on when we either need a play or we need somebody to step up and kind of be that leader within the locker room that none of us will ever see. He's going to be that guy, and I'm excited for him and excited to watch him play. And I thought he played very well the other night.
Former quarterback Perry Orth joining us now until the end of the 8 a.m. hour, the 7 a.m. hour, I should say. We're not going to keep Perry an hour and a half today. Perry, a lot of complaints and not just in the Georgia game, but going into the Georgia game from Gamecock fans about the offensive line play. We heard from Shane Beamer, we heard from Marcus Satterfield that, yeah, to a layman, it might look like the offensive line wasn't playing very well. But then we saw a lot of guys running free in that Georgia game. What's your analysis of what you've seen from the Gamecock offensive line, knowing what you know and seeing it from the kind of the fan perspective like we are?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see the frustration. I think the frustration as a Gamecock fan, it wouldn't come from the Georgia game. You know, those guys, they're elite athletes. I mean, that is hands down the best defense in college football. I've watched a lot of college football so far this year, more so than in years past, and I'm not really sure why. Not just Carolina, but all types of different games. You know, I've seen all of the quote unquote top teams in the country. You know, you look at Alabama, Oklahoma, Ohio State, even Clemson, and there's yet to be a defense that even compares to Georgia's. Their defensive line is elite. I mean, everybody at every level, they've got elite talent. And when you got guys running down Luke Doty, who runs a legit 4.5, sub 4.5, I mean, those dudes can roll. So that obviously has to go into the equation. But yeah, speaking on the previous two games, yeah, I'll agree that I don't think the offensive line performance has been all that great. I don't think they've gotten great push in the run game. And the pass protection's been, you know, so-so at times. I'm not sure if it's a schematic thing. I'm not sure if it's a personnel thing. You know, speaking on last year, I do know that, you know, Mike Bobo's a very well-versed coach when it comes to running the football. And I know Carolina fans don't want to hear that right now, but that's just the truth. And he does a lot of good things in that area of football. And I'm not saying our guys now don't. I'm just saying that he did an exceptional job with the talent that we had last year in the run game. And so it's kind of too early for me to, you know, throw up just a completely ridiculous opinion of what I've seen. I haven't really watched the film. I do know that I saw guys running free unblocked, which is never a good thing. And so maybe it's complications in learning a new system or just errors on behalf of the offensive line, and they've got to get ready to play and be, you know, more prepared from a physical and mental side heading into ball games. I think that after the Kentucky game, we will really know what we've got up front. Because, you know, the first two games, you know, you kind of tiptoeing into the season, then you play a buzzsaw defense like Georgia. You come back to earth to play a more standard college football team like a Kentucky. That'll give us a great, you know, barometer of where we are as far as offensive line play.
Perry, let's Tim, stop me when we need to take a break. I got a couple here for Perry, kind of relating back to what he said. Let's start with the quarterback responsibility. Some of the discussion about rushers running free, getting free shots at the quarterback has been discussed that it is on the quarterback to call the line protection. Being a former quarterback, you I forget how you described this to us, but I think you said when you went from Spurrier to Roper, there was a big adjustment on calling line protection for a younger quarterback like Luke Doty. Calling the line protection along with identifying players, trying to identify the defense. And I'm going to tie this in with the next question, huddling and then getting to the line of scrimmage at like the 15-second mark and only having so many seconds. Is that asking too much? Is that potentially the reason the offensive line is having the struggles?
Maybe. I mean, potentially. When you talk about quarterbacks in the pass protection world, you know, with Coach Spurrier, the center set the protection. Typically, he set the protection to the field. But then I really got to learn under Coach Roper. You know, if we had 4 down linemen, if we were playing a 4 down front, each offensive lineman had their own responsibility. The running back had his, and then the quarterback had his as well, right? So this may not mean anything to everyone on the radio, but when you had 4 down, the offensive line was blocking the first 4 down linemen to the will, right? So if the will linebacker came, the line was responsible for him. If the Mike came or the Sam came, the running back was responsible for him. If both Mike and Sam came, we were then identifying that as we can't pick that up. based off of a protection that we had to sight it, set those guys on a quick slant, kind of that replace of where the linebacker was, and you catch and throw.
And Perry, when you say sight it, that means you have to call that out before the play. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. You're pointing that out. You're pointing out the receivers to the Mike and the Sam linebacker saying, hey, these guys are coming. You better adjust your route to run that one-step slant so I get the ball off before I get my teeth knocked in.
Who was the best receiver you played with, Perry, that did that the best? Who was the receiver that you played with at Carolina that was really good at that?
Brian, as a freshman, was great at it. Brian Edwards, he always identified it. He saw it early, and he would help point it out too, which was just, we were all beyond impressed after we had taught that he identified that so quickly. It was pretty impressive, and now you're seeing that Brian on Sundays. But I know without a shadow of a doubt, our guys at Carolina have rules just like that. But sometimes you make mental errors. I don't know if you guys have ever played football and got smoked right under your jaw, but and then you come back and got to redo it. And I'm not making excuses for the guys, but sometimes you do have mental mix up when you're out there and you're playing. I'm not as concerned with the pass pro. I think there are some things we could do as far as play calling to help out our offensive line to not give them obvious passing downs where guys can just pin their ears back and roll. But I'm waiting to see the next steps in the run game. I want to see them really get driving people down the field so we can open up a few more creases and break some big runs. But I tell you, they're still putting too many hats in the box, forcing us to throw the ball. So we got to continue to prove that we can throw the football down the field, do it efficiently and effectively throughout the course of a game, and not just a couple plays. That will help alleviate stress in the run game.
Former Gamecock quarterback Perry Orth proving why he's one of our favorite guests right there, breaking it down for us as it pertains to Gamecock football. More of that right after this. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
Dan Patrick.
Weekday.
You might.
Looks like she'll hit you up right after this, Bill.
The Game.
All right.
Sponsored by Love Chevrolet.
You might be feeling a little bit of pain recently, maybe in your back, maybe in your neck, all kinds of areas like that, and you want to get rid of it. Maybe you've been playing too much golf. You don't want to quit playing golf. You just need to go see Casey Chiropractic Center. That's right. The great doctors Pate and Roman Cooper have over 42 combined years of experience and are in the business of getting people back to their regular life, whether it's non-surgical disc decompression, alleviating lower back pain, maybe mid-back pain, neck pain, headaches, leg and arm numbness and pain. They do it all. I was over at their practice not too long ago, saw all the machines, how they can get you up and running again. So if you've been out playing golf, you're a little sore right now, you got some issues with your lower back, maybe in your neck, and you're thinking, man, I really shouldn't be playing as much golf, too much pain. Don't stop playing the great game of golf. Just go see Dr. Roman and Pate Cooper. They're also a Disc Center of America. How about that? They will make sure that they take care of you when you go visit them. Give them a phone call and get an appointment scheduled today. 803-796-2424. They don't run patients through the mill over there. They give you treatment specifically designed to get you better. They take care of their patients. Again, that's why they've been in business for over 20 years and combined have experience of over 40 years. So let the great guys, Dr. Pate and Dr. Roman Cooper, get you back up and running. Go visit them at Casey Chiropractic Center, 803-796-2424. 24-24.
I was testing you, Bill, and you passed the test.
Thank you. I'm still semi-alert.
Was not on my screen. It was just on my little card.
We're still semi-alert here, yeah. All right, give me a second here. Move Oh, yeah. I think the clock behind me is broke. I noticed that last night. It's not.
Right, twice a day.
It looks like it's right now, is it?
Yeah, not close, not far. Just a couple minutes behind.
Okay, then it's a pure coincidence I did that. It was not correct last night. Ah. Chad, I don't know. I mean, yeah, Georgia's defense definitely had something to do with confusion, but man, I don't know about East Carolina's defense had something.
Right. What did Marshall put up? 38 points on East Carolina?
Yeah, but then and then you saw that incredible rally.
Yep. Attaboy,
you,
Art. Good vibes. Nice work.
Yeah.
Somebody else said that too. The question is wrong. If they beat Kentucky and then lose to Tennessee, you'll say they lost momentum and the whole thing. No, you don't have to go there and win. The have to and must, or what? They're not going to be in the college football playoff? I don't think anybody's got that expectation, man. Yeah, and Trey, nobody's saying that you can't beat Texas A&M, but it's never happened before, so that would be kind of a ridiculous question to throw out there at this point.
I saw. I guess I don't really need to double check because he's reliable. I saw Peter Burns tweet that the SEC West has more ranked teams than the ACC and Pac-12 combined right now.
Yeah, saw that too. Peter Burns put that out. SEC Network.
Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, LSU, and Auburn.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Arkansas? Did you mention Arkansas?
Arkansas.
So 6 out of 7. Is that everybody but Mississippi State?
Crazy. So let's add them up. Oregon, Clemson.
So this will have to be a quick one, obviously, Jim.
North Carolina.
Yeah, we'll take the extra minute. I just moved something, so we're going to come right back in.
Thank you.
Oregon, Clemson, North Carolina, UCLA. That's it.
So 2 more.
UCLA barely hung on.
Fresno State is good.
She'll have about 2 minutes. All right, guys are up.
Couple more minutes here with former Gamecock quarterback Perry Orth. Always enjoy the.
Perry, I'm wondering what you want to see for Carolina against Kentucky for the Gamecocks to have success on Saturday night.
I tell you, where our mindset is at offensively, I like it. You know, we've tried and we're trying to identify ourselves as a blue collar type pro style team that can run the football. We've also shown now that we have the ability to throw the football down the field. I would love for us now, just as a QB perspective, I'd love for us to come out throwing quick early to get Luke into a rhythm of the game. You guys have heard me say that for years now. Getting the quarterback confident early always helps your chance to win. And I also think, like we said a minute ago, it's going to help our run game. It's going to take an extra hat out of the box. Just briefly watching that Monday night game, Peyton Manning and Eli were talking about how important it is to try to get teams in that too high look to run the football. And I hope we're able to do that Saturday night versus Kentucky. If we do,
45.
1 through 10, how good is Eli and Peyton Manning to watch on TV during these games?
I love it. I'll give it a 9. I think it's great because they don't do the color commentating, but the
30.
breakdown analysis of what they're looking at, what they would have looked at as a quarterback. It's very similar to what I was taught as a player, so I relate very well. So for me, it was pretty fun. I look forward to watching next week.
We look forward
15.
to having you back next Tuesday, 7:30, where you can hear former Gamecock Perry Orth at Perry Orth 10 on Twitter, QB1athletics.com. Thank you, Perry. Talk to you next week. Hour 3 coming up here on the early game.
There.
This is Todd Ellis, and you're listening to the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5.
All right, so I was looking at. I didn't even realize Ole Miss took a real early bye ahead of Alabama. That's very interesting. Arkansas is number 16 right now. Have you seen what their next 4 weeks look like?
What you got?
At A&M this weekend, then at Georgia, then at Ole Miss, then Auburn.
Those 3 road games in a row?
3 road games against top 13 teams.
Ooh.
And then Auburn. Goodness
Wow.
gracious.
Yeah. Well, that's why they've got like the number 1 hardest schedule, and South Carolina's got the number 2, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, without Alabama on there, that's about as hard as you can play in 4 weeks. I mean, and then they get Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Mississippi State. Then it's at LSU, at Alabama, and Missouri.
Wow.
Goodness gracious, what a job that is.
No kidding, man.
Oh my gosh.
Good morning, Trey. So let's see. How's this poll question going for you, Patrick?
Wow, pretty overwhelming right now. Kentucky, 72% Kentucky.
I got interesting.
Yeah, I was a little surprised it was that lopsided. I wasn't surprised it was Kentucky because I actually think it's a great question.
Well, I think it would always skew the most current, right?
Yeah.
If it was flipped and Tennessee was the first game and then Kentucky, I think people would go with whatever the Saturday game is. He is great, Jim. He is great. I think once we have people in for an entire hour, then we got to start paying them.
Yeah.
Then I feel like we're just taking advantage of it.
Unless it's Brian Jeffcoat.
Well, we let him plug QB1 Athletics, so
True.
there's a trade there.
That's a good point.
The only
Also-
person who comes in for an hour and doesn't get paid and actually just brought us food was Brian Jeffcoat.
Yeah.
Got me this hat. Probably the greatest guy of all time.
But he has, 75 kids, so he was just trying to get out of the
Exactly.
house.
He
Yeah,
just
he wanted to get
escaped
out
the
early
house.
in the morning so he didn't have to get up and deal with them all.
And
Barry's
Yeah,
not quite there yet.
And then what?
Maybe
yeah,
in 5 years. Barry has 3 kids under the age of 5. Then he'll be a co-host, volunteer co-host.
And then Brian got stuck at the house. If it wasn't a kid, next thing you know, he was trying to wrangle a skunk from under the house or something.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's what I was
that's
thinking.
true.
Morning, Whit. Fort Worth, Texas in the house. Colorado beating you, I believe, this morning, Whit. Just to stir up a rival.
There you go.
Yeah, you got to get on a plane and go further tomorrow.
I got Jen. 77 North is blocked at the 5 mile marker.
Yep, I've been promoting that.
Gotcha. Just saw it on the old social media.
Yeah,
Figured
no, I
you were on.
appreciate that.
Tim, we were slightly wrong. There's only 5 ranked West teams. LSU is not ranked.
Makes sense. So 5-4 there, huh? SEC West versus. So the team that won the national championship a couple of years ago, not ranked.
Unranked. Yeah. I cannot believe this Arkansas schedule. I mean, I guess we kind of knew that that's what it was, but
Great question here by Trey. Who you got, Patrick? I think it's Saban.
wait. I don't know how Survivor works.
Matt, I think you just are on an island and you got to survive. I don't think there's too much more to it than that, sir.
Don't
Well, I
you
thought
know
there
the
was, like,
Orgeron?
games
Orgeron looks like the guy who's going to eat berries and leaves and.
I know there's stuff about like cutting deals and winning games and like.
Right. Alliances. It's all about the alliance. I see Saban just orchestrating all of that to his favor. You don't want to be a big guy typically in Survivor. I think usually the smaller guys do well. Don't want to have a lot of mass to support on the leaves and berries there. So Pittman and Orgeron, they got some immediate disadvantages.
But they could team up against Saban, like all of his minions can team up against him, be like
a coup, if you will. Yeah, Lane Kiffin would definitely be leading that coup.
Yeah.
Mike Leach would be the silent partner that
You
would
think he'd be
befriend
silent?
Saban. Right. Maybe not. Definitely not silent.
Eli Drinkwitz could sneaky just be back there all nerdy, but just eating berries, staying alive, and
Let's go the other way. Who is the first one out? I say Heupel.
yeah, I'm with you.
Well,
Mike
Tim,
Leach
check
wouldn't
your
last
phone.
long.
Apparently, Jeffco just sent you and I a video. Apparently, he's just out there wrangling more skunks and stuff. He just sent us a video.
Unsolicited?
Oh wow.
Well, I'm guessing he's hiding out on the live stream there.
Whoa! What a creep! What eavesdropping on the live stream, Jeff Cope? Get in, man, if you're in.
Yeah.
Do we need a special Jeff Code appearance this morning?
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Well, that's pretty good. Kiffin, Pittman, and Beamer, the final 3. That's true. You do get voted off, so everybody would just vote Saban off. Very good point.
I think that Drinkwitz and Beamer would be similar in that the other guys wouldn't see them as a threat, so they just quietly like keep advancing and advancing.
Mm-hmm.
And before you know it, there they are.
I don't think Saban would be as tough as he comes across. Like I think I think he would be the master, puppet master or whatever. But as far as the physical stuff and whatever, I think he'd crack earlier.
Sometimes that's a plus, the lack of communication.
I think that Leach would get voted out quickly if you're stranded on an island and he won't shut up.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Unless,
I don't care.
Unless he proves to be the pirate he kind of is built to be, right? Maybe he's got some pirate survival skills.
And he might actually, because I think he's extremely intelligent and probably knows a lot about a lot of things, and is happy to tell you about it.
Right? And Steven's got the theory that people wouldn't be taking him seriously, and then he'd win it all.
Yep.
What?
No idea what that means.
Is there any pairing of coaches that would get along less than Nick Saban and Mike Leach if they were stuck in the league together?
I don't think so. I mean, that is the odd couple.
Oh man.
Maybe
I can't imagine any two.
I just hear Saban, when Leach would talk, Saban just like, what the hell? Like that's all he would say.
I'm trying to think of what movie would sum up Mike Leach and
We're in the
Nick
intro.
Saban. Maybe Tommy Boy, but not as stupid.
It's awesome. Kirby Smart, that's Muschamp in a boat just off the island with the food and supply. Love the creativity. Well played.
Perfect strangers. I got that one down cold. Wasn't buddies. Better or worse, it's the early game with Tim and
Guys are up.
We couldn't quit the Perfect Strangers theme song. Just can't quit it. I think it's a great time. In week number 4, 2021, especially since someone legitimately brought up, well, legitimately in their mind, is this Saturday a must-win for Gamecock football against Kentucky? And we've evolved that to the poll question. If you can only win one game this year in your Gamecock football, Kentucky or Tennessee, which way you're going?
Like,
Patrick, are you with me about the Kentucky? You're on the Kentucky side of this thing. Bill's on the Tennessee side. It looks like most of the votes so far on your poll question at _Patrick Perrette on Twitter with us and going with Kentucky. You will admit, like I will, I think this is also some recency bias, knowing that it's this Saturday's game as opposed to a couple of weeks down the road.
I think so, but I am placing a lot of value in getting a win in front of what's going to be a great home crowd with the SEC network there, with a lot of recruits in the house, and against a team that's beaten you 6 out of 7 years, and you just need to get that thing turned around. And realistically, this Kentucky team's probably better than several of those Kentucky teams that beat you 6 in the last 7 years. Their offense is just a different animal right now than they've ever had. I mean, they had a great rushing attack with Benny Snell, but this is just it's different now that Will Levis can open the thing up. So, yeah, I understand the Tennessee thing, but I also am factoring in that I think Tennessee is going to be brutal this year, and anyone thinking about going to Tennessee instead of South Carolina in a recruiting battle is going to say, wow, this Tennessee rebuild is going to take quite some time, longer than I am going to be in college for, and I don't want to deal with that. All they have to do is look at all the transfers. I mean, it's a brutal time to be a Tennessee Volunteer, and I can't imagine that's going to be turned around quickly by Josh Heupel.
I know most of the comments we've gotten this morning, Bill, on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, 803-404-6100. By the way, if you'd like to join, you can call as well. That same number is about the Gamecock offense and specifically the offensive line and struggling a little bit so far this season. But what do you make on the other side of the ball after watching the Gamecock defense against Georgia?
Look, we knew the secondary had some issues going in just because they had played Eastern Illinois and East Carolina very well. Georgia was a different animal. Patrick, let me ask Patrick this first because I feel like we've gone back and forth on Georgia is Patrick's national championship pick. It does feel like offensively that's what they're missing to get over the hump. They put up now 56 on UAB by bombing away last week. They were able to bomb away pretty good on South Carolina as well as run the football. So, I kind of maybe think Georgia does indeed have a more potent offense, even with all those guys out, Pickens and Blaylock and Washington. They aren't getting Gilbert back, but I think it depends, Tim, on how much credit you want to give Georgia's offense. If you're willing to give it a lot of credit, and this is where I was going to ask Patrick for his assessment, if you're willing to give it a lot of credit, then you go, okay, South Carolina's defense at times put up a fight and at times got stops and did some nice things, and then they got run over kind of like I thought they would. If you still think that this Georgia offense is the anemic offense that's cost them opportunities for a national championship in the past, then maybe you become a little bit more concerned because Kentucky's been throwing it around pretty good. Tennessee's at least putting up points. We'll see Florida looked really good on Saturday. Emory Jones finally looked like the quarterback that everybody was projecting. Missouri's going to be pretty good offensively. So, you kind of go down Mike Bobo and Auburn. So I guess the question is, backtrack just a second. After now a 3-game sample, Georgia going against Clemson's defense, but then lighting up UAB, lighting up South Carolina, what do you put Georgia's offense at?
Well, I think Clemson's defense matched up. Well, obviously they matched up better than South Carolina's because they're far more talented. But besides that, Clemson's really good on the interior of the defensive line. I mean, they had Tyler Davis at that time, and they obviously had Brian Breesy. South Carolina's defensive line is good, but they're more of like edge rushers that rush the passer is where they thrive. I don't know how heavy Jordan Strawn is right now, but he's a speed rusher. And so standing up to giant offensive linemen that just want to push you back in the run game isn't exactly where they thrive in South Carolina's linebacker core, especially after Sherrod Green went down on the second play of the game, maybe. It was not going to be a good situation. So they were reeling immediately, and they're just not built to stop the run against an offensive line like that. They're much more built to stop a drop back passing attack or something like that, where those guys, Enigbar and Strawn, who have been getting really high marks or did for the first 2 weeks. I can't imagine their PFF grades were very good against Georgia, but they need to pin their ears back and rush the passer. If they're worried about trying to hold up a 325-pound offensive lineman and shed him to make a tackle in the running game, that's not where they're going to thrive. So I just think they were playing behind the 8 ball the entire time, and this defense is not built to stop that kind of offense right now.
And to move it forward now, Kentucky is not that different stylistically from Georgia. You just talked about, I mean, they're built behind the offensive line, run first. Chris Rodriguez, a good back, powerful, the whole thing. I am really interested to see what Clayton White can dial up this week in the SEC, because those first 2 weeks are nice, and getting some interceptions against Georgia are nice for sure. But you got to win games to be a good defensive coordinator in the SEC. You got to stop teams consistently, especially these games that are single-digit spreads, right, that you go into and you got a legit chance to win, because Carolina has more than a legit chance to win the next 4 games. And what the defense does, and especially this week, against a Kentucky team that's a run-first type team. And I agree with you, Patrick. I think from a matchup standpoint on paper, not necessarily a favorable matchup for that Gamecock defense. Going to be really interesting to see what Clayton White can do there. Wanted to get out to the phones. Elwood's been waiting patiently to weigh in on that poll question that Patrick's thrown out this morning. More important to the 2021 team, a win against Kentucky or a win against Tennessee? If you could only choose one, Elwood, who are you going with?
Hey, good morning, guys. Call me negative if you would like. That's fine. But I'm going to choose to look at it as, if we were to lose to those two teams, which is okay to lose and which is not. Now, obviously, we prefer to not lose to either one of them. But just as what Patrick was saying a second ago, Tennessee is not at the level of Kentucky. So if we were to lose to Tennessee this year, I think that it would, all the momentum that we've been able to gain with Shane Beamer and the media and starting off 2-0 and looking, like we had a pulse for, at least for the, part of the game against Georgia. I think it would crush all of that momentum. So I'm going to say Tennessee is the much, much, much more important game this year, though we need to get back to Kentucky and surpass them and get back on near the top of the East. Great show, guys. I'll hang up and y'all have a great week.
Thank you, Elwood. Some support for Bill's side of the argument there against that for the Tennessee win over the Kentucky win. I think if these two games were switched, I would go the opposite way as well. I would go the home game is more important than winning on the road right now for Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks. I think that goes into the momentum of the program. You win at home on a Saturday night in this type game. I think Bill, you mentioned the environment. You think that will be enough to impress recruits and the whole thing on Saturday night. I'm not sold on that alone. I think you got to have some success at this point where the program is. And it's much easier to ignore a loss on the road. And how much the results matter to recruits, I think, is probably individually based. You've been around the recruiting game a lot more and a lot longer than I have, Bill. But I do think a momentum building win right now is much more important at home than possibly stealing one on the road for this Gamecock football team and Shane Beamer and company, especially coming off that loss and knowing that there are some serious doubts out there by Gamecock fans. You disagree? It looks like you're shaking your head over there.
Well, I was kind of in my mind. Let me go back. As Patrick points out, there's several big recruits coming in this weekend. 3 official visitors: Jamari Lyons, defensive tackle out of Melbourne, Florida, who is choosing really between Florida and South Carolina. See, I think even regardless, and he's expected to announce next week, by the way. I think regardless, he's going to end up going to Florida. They've had a little bit of an edge. Jayshawn Barham out of District Heights, Maryland, a linebacker / edge guy. Patrick mentioned it. He had an official visit to Penn State last weekend, and there's a lot of talk about him staying closer to home. I think even a great atmosphere, he may still go to Penn State. And then the one guy that's a little bit different, the wide receiver, and maybe the most important out of all four of them as you try to continue to restock that wide receiver cupboard, is Antonio Williams from right here in town at Dutch Fork High School. You got a chance with him. He knows about South Carolina football. He knows about the environment, the atmosphere, and the fans, and everything that comes along with the program right now. I don't know if there's anything necessarily that catches his attention this weekend. Looking down at other 2022 unofficial visitors, commitments, Braden Davis, Felix Hickson, Donovan Westmoreland are all expected to be in town. And then there's some other recruits, Pro Franklin out of Greenville, a quarterback, Jordan McDonald, a running back out of Alpharetta, Georgia, and Demetrius Watson, a guy who most expect to commit to South Carolina, defensive tackle out of Fort Dorchester in South Carolina. I don't know if a win changes anybody's opinion in the 2022 class. 2023 is a little bit different, but again, I think it's the environment. That's where, they've still got time to see things evolve and change. Dylan Longren, the big time elite quarterback out of Snellville, Georgia, is coming in. There's a couple really good wide receivers. Trey Tolliver out of Lake City, Florida, is a guy that reminds me a lot of Ace Sanders that is coming in. South Carolina recently offered him. And then 4-star defensive tackle Keith Sampson out of New Bern, North Carolina. Maybe those guys, maybe you change. There are others, by the way. Maybe those are other guys that maybe those 2013, they get caught up in it, Patrick, Tim. Maybe those are the guys that even though they're only juniors in high school, they see the environment and they're willing to put South Carolina as their leader. But I don't know if Saturday night necessarily is going to be the big recruiting haul. It's a good step for the future guys. I don't know if it necessarily changes the impact of what's going on with the current guys.
Well, clearly it's a point of emphasis. Shane Beamer has been more clear about that as a head coach of South Carolina than I feel like anyone that I've ever seen before, about how important it is to have fans at games and a good environment. And the video put out by the South Carolina social media team yesterday, I think Sonny has been the most, he's come out with the most strong opinion on it this morning. Says he had tears in his eyes watching that thing. It's impressive. If you haven't seen that thing and you're a Gamecock fan and maybe you were on the fence about going to the game, I think that would convince you real quick to get out to Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday for the 7 o'clock kick against Kentucky. We'll continue to discuss as we move on this morning. Would love to hear your opinion at 803-404-6100. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
Live, local, and free. How we do sports.
Don't wait any longer. Get AAA Heating and Air out to your house today. Dana and Roy Finley, they run a family-owned company, and they want to treat you like a family member. So if you've got an issue right now with your heating and air conditioning unit, don't wait till it's too late. Don't let that thing just end up breaking down on you, and then you've got to call them. Get Roy and Dana, the team at AAA Heating and Air, out to see you today. 803-677-1500. They've got an incredible deal going on right now. If you need a new unit, AAA Heating and Air will work with you. They'll offer you a $1,500 rebate to buy back your old unit. Then upon doing that, they'll work with you. No money down, 0% financing for those who qualify on a brand new heating and air unit. That's treating you like a family member and making sure that they don't break your budget for an incredibly important item that your house needs. After all that's done, the rebate, the 0% financing, the no money down, this is the absolute best part. You can sleep at night knowing AAA Heating and Air is taking care of you with a 15-year parts and labor warranty, guaranteeing the great folks at AAA Heating and Air are there in case something goes wrong. It's a family-run business that wants to treat you like a family member. They want to make sure that they're doing it the right way. Give them a call today, 803-677-1500. Call AAA Heating and Air. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Bill, if you need to dip out, man, feel free. I know it's not easy.
What?
But if you need to dip out, feel free to do it.
No, we got 40, 30, 35 more minutes. I'm gonna probably hop off here for just a second with Jen, and we're gonna cut a commercial.
Gotcha.
She gets done. We got to cut one here real quick.
Patrick, will you make sure you mic next time if you go off like that? I just kind of heard you throwing on the headset last time.
Oh, really? I was trying to, because I never, when I lose signal on the laptop, I never lose it on the headset as well, and I lost it on the headset. So I was trying to switch it to different settings to see if the whole system was messed up, and I ended up rebooting it.
Gotcha.
I thought that.
I know you were on at one point before you had the headset on, and I could just hear it a little bit.
I thought the whole thing was off.
Jen, you want to hop off and do this?
I hate that Troy's a 3:30 game.
Yeah, that was a weird spot, I thought. I guess with all the night games that Carolina's already had, they were kind of due for an afternoon one, but
yes,
that is, I'd say, that'll be really interesting to see how much the players are buying into the every game's the most important game kind of mentality. Yeah, I did see it. That was the bring your daughter to work day with the ref? Did you see that SEC short, Patrick?
Mm-mm.
Good stuff. Definitely worth watching, as I think all of them are.
What?
Twitter for me is the easiest place to watch those SEC shorts. It's just add SEC shorts.
I will
you can watch them straight off of there.
Remember that Colorado State tight end that's a stud that we thought was potentially going to transfer to South Carolina a couple years ago? Did you see what he did on Saturday?
Did not. For who? I don't know where he is.
He's still at Colorado State. He
stayed at Colorado State.
He had 109 of their 110 team receiving yards.
That's crazy.
That is absurd. 99.
Low-hanging fruit this morning. Low-hanging fruit over there, Ty. Patrick, what was the stat again? I think I saw it from Peter Burns, the SEC Network.
Oh, yeah, the SEC West has more ranked teams, 5, than the ACC and Pac-12 combined. They have 4, 2 apiece. And I think UCLA is ranked 25.
I saw Greg McElroy was being talked about. I guess he dropped a comment that he thought Penn State would be in the middle of the SEC West.
Well,
Big Tenner's taking exception to that, but you go Alabama 1. Who are you putting at 2 over there?
Right now, Ole Miss.
A&M, Ole Miss.
A&M, yeah.
Only 4th right there, right?
Would that game have gone the same way if it was in Auburn?
Right.
I mean, it was the best environment college football has seen in 2 years.
No doubt.
I would really like to go to a Penn State whiteout game.
So I get Penn State fans taking exception to that.
Yeah, but I mean, Auburn had goal to go to tie the game, basically.
Yeah,
it wasn't like Penn State handled them.
Yeah, what was the most recent ACC stuff? Obviously, Wake thumps Florida State. That's probably not great for the conference. Let me go back. I thought I saw some other scores that were just alarming.
North Carolina looked really good, I think.
They scored a bunch of points. Also gave up a bunch of points. Virginia.
Well, apparently Virginia's quarterback is a stud now this year.
Right.
I don't know who he is.
Oh, that Louisville UCF game was just tremendous. Friday night. Yeah, Virginia Tech losing, West Virginia didn't help them. Michigan State thumping Miami, Western Michigan beating Pitt. Those are the ones that I was thinking of. At least Duke did get a good game. Did have a good win against Northwestern.
Yeah, and Northwestern, I guess Helinski is the third string.
Oof. 2 out of 7 for 34 yards.
Well, yeah, he was not their second. When Hunter Johnson was pulled, he did not go in. Helinski did not go in.
The other guy came in and threw 2 touchdown passes, was 11 out of 16 for 151, Andrew Marty.
Yeah.
So if he came in, he might have come in and struggled, and then they brought in the other guy. I don't know how that worked.
No, I think Andrew Marty was the next guy in. I remember seeing that.
So why did Helinski get in at all? It would be my question.
I don't know. Let's see.
It looks like he was pretty good. So remember the over-under for touchdown passes this season was 20. Somebody set on the text line one time.
Yeah, Andrew Marty got hurt.
Oh, that's what it was, and Helinski had to come in.
Yep.
And struggle.
So their depth chart currently reads Hunter Johnson or Andrew Marty or Ryan Helinski.
Wow. So he's still got a chance to hit that 20 mark. Not looking good, though.
Is he going to hit 2? Good for you watching that game, Craig. You're one of the few.
$1:15 today, you'll hear Shane Beamer live on 107.5 The Game Weekly Press Conference discussing Kentucky coming up. I'm guessing reviewing a little bit of what happened in the 40-13 loss against Georgia. Patrick, what do you think we will hear, if anything, that will be notable from Shane Beamer today? From my standpoint,
hey, Gamecock fans,
the quarterback outlook, I guess, to hear more of his evaluation of Luke Doty. I mean, originally on Saturday night, he gave a relatively quick one after the game, said he thought he played great and came in and was ready to go. I think I'm more interested in the health.
Over the next couple of weeks,
quarterback Perry Orr a little bit earlier on in the program, and if you missed Perry, podcast page at 107.5thegame.com and hear his thoughts. But he said he didn't feel like Luke Doty was 100% and could kind of see that. The fact that we finally got the information that he really only practiced 100% on Thursday of last week, to me,
be on the lookout through all their social media sites
the picture, the quarterback picture, a little more fully going into that game. I understand why they started Zeb Nolan now, knowing that Luke Doty was much more limited in practice than I guess I had originally understood, or we had been led to understand, or let in on, maybe is the best way to put that. What we hear from Shane Beamer today about the quarterback situation will be interesting. I am fully expecting that Luke Doty is going to be the guy moving forward now for Carolina, because I thought he played really well, maybe not 100% from a mobility standpoint, or maybe, I don't know, maybe he's just matured more as a quarterback and is able to look to pass more often when a play breaks down as opposed to look to run.
Yeah, so I would assume that that's going to be said very early that Luke Doty is the starter. I mean, there's not really any competition at this point. I don't know what the prognosis on Zeb will be, but
isn't the explanation about his injury a little strange to you, that it was a cut, but he lost all feeling in the hand? Like, those two things don't go hand in hand to me. No pun intended.
I don't. I mean, with like a nerve, I don't. Can it cut deep enough to twitch a nerve or something like that you lose feeling? I don't.
And the wrap on it was really bulky, clearly.
Yeah.
And when he came back, I saw the video from, I think it was Cam Gaskins over at ABC Columbia, had Zeb Nolan coming back onto the field, and it looked like his arm was. That's where it really looked like he didn't have feeling in his hand down, kind of just dangling a little bit as he was on his way to talk to Luke Doty. And give him some words of encouragement. So I guess more information about this quarterback situation, or it's kind of what I'm expecting to come out of today's press conference, maybe more than anything else. And also, I guess, an explanation more in detail about offensive line issues. Because certainly after the game, I get the response from Shane Beamer that, hey, Georgia's really good, man. But now that you go back and you do the classic Will Muschamp, you look at the film, you check out the tape, and you break it down. Well, where's the breakdown? And who does the go to? Because reading our text line, Gamecock fans have a lot of questions and are not pleased. And I get it. Not pleased with the offensive line play so far and don't know exactly where to throw the blame. Do you throw it on the quarterback for getting the protection wrong? Do you throw it on the offensive coordinator for having wrong plays dialed up or not putting his players in the right position? Do you go straight to the offensive line coach and Craig Atkins and say, hey, he just hadn't coached him up well enough? I'm interested to see where Shane Beamer goes with that explanation today during his weekly press conference. Bill, I know you're a big offensive line guy. What do you think we will hear, or what is your kind of hypothesis about the issues at this point?
Well, that's two different questions. I don't think we'll hear anything. I think we're going to hear the same standard message that we've heard the last few times, which is this is fixable and they need to coach better and so forth and so on. I do have some major questions about the offense, and it's more. Some of it does have to do with Shane Beamer, not Marcus Satterfield. Guys, I heard there was going to be a marriage of what they did at Oklahoma versus what they did with Joe Brady. I'm not seeing a whole lot of Oklahoma in this. And you can say, well, we don't have the personnel. But the first thing I really don't like is the slow offense. I'd rewatched the East Carolina game, and I just haven't gone back and really paid enough attention. Eastern Illinois as well. Do you guys remember them going to the line of scrimmage and changing a play at the line of scrimmage? How many? I would guess if they've audibled at the line of scrimmage, we could count on one hand how many times they've audibled. It feels like when they go to the line of scrimmage, the play that they're running is the play they're running. And sometimes that's putting your offensive line in a bad position. One of the things that we were sold, and then we sold on Zeb Nolan was, this guy's the guy who can run the offense and get you in and out of the right play and make sure that schematically you're lined up correctly. 2 games in, I don't know if that was the case. Maybe you could make that case for Luke Doty, who hadn't practiced in a while. But again, I think that I'm surprised that they need to go, in my opinion, to the sugar huddle or getting to the line of scrimmage and looking over. I think Marcus Satterfield can call the offense and make audibles from the booth, but I don't remember them audibling much. And
but the one time they hurried up, they had that big shot because Georgia was still substituting.
And they've had success. It seems like you go back to the end of the East Carolina game, and they went a little bit quicker tempo and ran it with some success. And so that's my number one. I think you've got to do that. Number two, and I think this is interesting, as I spoke to some high school coaches over the weekend that are familiar with what's going on with Marcus Satterfield. They say he's trying to run more of a Joe Brady pro-style type system. Patrick, you and I talked about this in the past when it pertaining to Joe Brady, Joe Burrow, and LSU. I think the 4 of us, and probably a lot of our listeners, could have gone and called plays for that quarterback, for those wide receivers, and had a level of success. And then when you bump it up, that working with those and count in, throw in the tight ends for that group, Thaddeus Moss that was out there. That was an extremely, extremely talented offense that was smart enough to pick up a pro-style system. Remember, Joe Brady's roots are not college. They're NFL with the Saints, and then going to LSU for a year. I'm not sure I like the idea of a pro-style offense as opposed to more of a college, hurry it up, spread them out type system.
Yeah. I also, when we were talking about the offensive line, the one thing I need to, I guess, rewatch, because I was noticing that the tight ends were not involved, but I was assuming that it was because they had to stay in the block. I need to go back and see just how often Nick Muse was out there running routes, because in a game, I know a lot of people were talking about Oscar Delp, and in a game where Georgia kind of showed off their talented freshman tight end, South Carolina's tight ends were nowhere to be seen. So I would hope that someone today will ask about the tight ends and their lack of use in that Georgia game, where they just covered up by safeties or something like that, or were they actually in there to block? In which case, that almost makes it worse because you kept an extra blocker in every time, and Georgia was still getting pressure at will. So I'm curious about that. I might need to find a YouTube video and rewatch that thing and just see if Nick Muse is in there pass protecting on every play.
I'm not. This is not a shot at Shane Beamer. I'm not trying to. I do think this is an interesting learning. Shane Beamer is going to learn on the job as a head coach. We saw some of. Was it over emotion? What did you guys? Was it Sean McDonough? That was what's called in the game? Talked early on about the intensity of Shane Beamer and how South Carolina seemed rattled, and how McDonough, I think, was the one saying, they need to calm the coaching staff. The head coach needs to calm down some. I think there's a learning lesson for Shane Beamer just continuing to be a head coach. One of the things that I do wonder about is when you go out and you say, hey, our tight ends are going to catch 60 passes this year. You're going to come. You look at Oscar Delp and you tell him you're going to come to South Carolina and you're going to catch 60 passes. Well, right now, you guys want to take. I do not have the number in front of me. Jaheim Bell, Nick Muse. You guys want to take a guess as to how many total catches the tight end position has this year?
Well, through 3 games, and they're the only 2 guys that do have catches. Is that right? Because it's billed as a very deep group. Kevion Mullins in there as well as the Trey Kenyon. I'll go 5.
I will go. I know they had 3 against Georgia. I'll say a dozen.
Good, right in between you. 9 is the answer. 4 for Bell and 5 for Muse. Muse has got 5 for 26 and a touchdown. Bell's got 4 for 61 and a touchdown. 9 catches through 3
So
games.
averaging 3 per game, right? Which would be 36 for the season, which is nowhere close to that number that popped out in recruiting is what you're talking about. I think Oscar Delp putting that out there when he was interviewed after a recruiting visit to South Carolina. And that number took us all by surprise because it would be the record at South Carolina, I think, for catches by a tight end in a season. And I think it's I forget who had the record exactly. We went back and looked at it, but it was somewhere maybe in the 50s or even the high 40s at that point. To me, this is where the offense is kind of at a crossroads at this point for South Carolina, Bill, because you saw procedural issues. You saw unclean football, and somebody hit us up. Scott hit us up on the text line saying, I'm with Bill. The offensive coaching staff hasn't really looked like they have it together in a game. Somebody else hit us up. Ty says Shane thinks Zeb is better than Doty for this year. And then somebody hit us up as well saying, well, Zeb was a coach like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So maybe they just haven't been able to do what they wanted to do. And that's I think the main issue for this coaching staff that talked about they were going to simplify the game plan, make sure their players knew exactly what to do going into a game. So you don't want to give them too much. You don't want to be audible in on every play. Peyton Manning talked about it last night during the Monday Night Football game, how you have a series of calls that are like the McDonald's value meal, right? Where you just say one word and it's got everything. Everybody knows exactly what to do if you say fire or whatever the word might be. Tampa, I forget what the example that he gave specifically. Alert even is what Brett Favre talked about. If you just say that one word, everybody knows what to do. It doesn't seem like Marcus Satterfield and Shane Beamer have allowed any kind of freedom for the quarterback to do that. And you're right, Bill, that having offense struggles, I feel like we've seen in the last couple of years, the pace of that offense is an issue as well, right? What we heard about it a couple of seasons ago when Brian McClendon was going into his second year as an offensive coordinator. I think maybe it was his first year, how they're going to crank up the pace, right? Well, you can't be a really fast offense if you don't get first down. So you can have all kind of ideas going in, but ultimately you got to execute. And I'm interested. This is why it's great to be able to hear from Marcus Satterfield, right, about the thought process and not just about what we see, what they're trying to do versus what they've been able to do. And now, through games where you've gotten every level, right? Marcus Satterfield already admitted they didn't have to do very much against Eastern Illinois to move the football. East Carolina, whatever they were trying to do, it didn't work very well until that fourth quarter and the game finally got going with some outside zone and Juju McDowell. And then last game, you saw some downfield passing, and that's what Perry Orth said he was encouraged about and wants to see more of with the Gamecocks coming out, throwing the ball, getting their quarterback in a rhythm, and then maybe then you can see more of what they want to do. But again, that's where the matchup, Patrick, on paper, you mentioned from a defensive standpoint, how the Gamecocks aren't necessarily built from the inside out and able to stop the run and stuff it up the middle. And that's what Kentucky's going to try to exploit. I think we all see on paper, at least going into this thing. And I think on the flip side of that too, I'm not sure that the Kentucky defense and Mark Stoops with his defensive background is the team you want to be going against when you're looking to get into an offensive rhythm or maybe diversifying your offense in week 4.
I guess my question for y'all, and this is where I go, like Justin on the text line says it's the O-line. Pretty simple. We all have that. Like, we got it. It's the offensive line. But what exactly is the issue? Like, while I don't think that they are a top half of the league offensive line, I also don't think that they are an FCS line or worse, which is what they look like. The flat
top half of the SEC and FCS, there's a lot of gray area between there. I mean, they could be the second worst in the SEC.
They don't look like an SEC line though right now.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
Here's the thing. It's not. It is because I am more appalled at the missed assignments when what was it? Which was it? Nolan Smith or whatever other linebacker that runs a 4.1 that came running in on the offensive lineman. I think it was Gwynn, maybe. By the way, Javon Gwynn, who I know is a good kid. Javon Gwynn has been off to an awful start. I mean, I don't like to criticize college players because they don't get paid. I know Javon is trying.
They do, actually.
Huh?
They do actually.
Yeah, you have zero qualms with it. Javon Gwynn has been.
No, I'm saying they do get paid.
This year they get paid.
Well, yes, they could, yes. But the bottom line is, the guy comes. Gwynn. I think it was Gwynn, and I apologize. I'm pretty sure it was the right guard that I'm thinking back to the right play. And a guy just rushes in, and Gwynn is blocking nobody, and just puts his right hand out. Patrick, you know what play I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And just puts his hand out, and just kind of. I mean, it just like.
But it wasn't the only play. I think that's where Gamecock fans, the frustration is very real, right? A lot of times you see an offensive lineman just out in space, and there's nobody to block. And that's massive problem.
It's one thing if they are literally picking up the offensive lineman, driving him back into the quarterback.
Right.
I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen a time or two, but that doesn't happen as much. The offensive line has kind of held their own. It looks like miscommunication scheme. So when we say, well, the offensive line is bad, is that because the quarterback is that where that's why I asked Perry about calling protection?
Well, because I was disappointed. I mean, Dylan Wanham was supposed to be a pro, and he did not look like it on Saturday. I mean, Adam Anderson, that edge rusher for Georgia, was just having his way with Dylan Wanham as well. So I think it's most frustrating is that there seemed to clearly be a talent gap and a communication gap. You can't just say, well, they weren't on the same page or Georgia was just better. I mean, it was both. So I have no idea how to fix that.
A lot of times as well, those work hand in hand, right? If you are unsure about your blocking assignment, you're not going to look like you're a real good player. If you are sure about something, that you can take confidence into that play. And that's why I go back to where the offense is right now with a new scheme, new offensive coordinator, new offensive line coach, everybody trying to be on the same page and trying to get into a rhythm and the whole deal. I think this is where Mike Bobo didn't get enough credit last year for coming in a difficult situation in a COVID year and being able to at least scheme up the run game to be consistent. And we have not seen that this year. I think that's where I think all of us, most of us, thought it was going to be a good move to keep Mike Bobo on staff and to have that continuity and to maybe the ceiling wasn't that high, but the floor wasn't going to be that low either. This year with a completely brand new offensive coordinator to SEC football and Marcus Satterfield and the whole thing, I think we're seeing a little bit of growing pains rolling into week 4. But this is the week that I think you can go to that next step, right? I feel like East Carolina on the road, first time you've been on the road with a new staff, maybe you give a little bit of leash, right? Obviously it wasn't good, but you can get better. Georgia, massively talented. Okay, you had issues against Georgia. Everybody's going to have issues against Georgia. Kentucky, though, that is a bar for South Carolina right now. And Kentucky is above South Carolina in the pecking order right now in the SEC East. But it can't stay that way from a South Carolina perspective. So you have to see improvement. I think significant improvement up front, especially if you're going to project any kind of success for this Gamecock 2021 season. And it's a big week from that standpoint. So that hearing what Shane Beamer has to say about that today, what Marcus Satterfield will say about that tomorrow, I think is going to be interesting. And then what we see the most interesting, obviously, on Saturday night against Kentucky, 803-404-6100. We see some of you guys lighten up that Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Your final thoughts when we come back here. It's the early game on 107.5 game.
Apologize when we eat some dry bread. I had to take a pill there a minute ago. I forgot to take the antibiotic, and I need to eat a little bit with it. My limited diet is dry bread. I did eat some lovely cream of potato soup last night.
Good stuff.
Oh, great. Oh, good time. Bunch of chicken broth over the weekend. Phenomenal. Yeah. All kinds. Something like that, Craig. Yeah, I've had not the flu. I had something like that. Thank you, buddy. I should be good by hopefully by Thursday. I should be good, or relatively good. It's gonna be a few weeks, but Thursday I should be out swimming in the lake and playing tennis and cattle roping.
Right. I say, riding horses and the stuff you had been doing.
Yeah. Back to the old way of life. Hikes, just big hikes through the mountains.
Because the mountains are pretty close. So
somebody sent me last night of a cabin in Pigeon Forge. Well, that's not a huge cabin, but they redid the basement. And it's a pool, an inside pool, but it looks like a cave.
Oh, cool.
It was like $600 a night, but I mean, it actually, I say it wasn't big. It actually had a movie theater in it too. I guess it was, but I didn't look at the square footage.
That actually sounds fun.
And just a PSA, Powerball has not been won.
Uh-oh.
Since when?
It's been a while.
It's been months. Right now, Powerball is worth $490 million. The cash value is $355.1 million. $351 million. And the take home right now, if you took the cash option, $351 million, if you lived in South Carolina, you paid the taxes and everything, your take home would be 198. I don't even know how to say this number. It's 198.8 million, basically.
Wow.
I'd still come to work.
And Anthony, you are right. You'd still come to work?
Sure.
I think we're approaching the level at 198 million. I think I'd find time. I'd find time to retire.
To get to hang out with you guys in the morning? Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too.
I would never retire from doing 3 hours of work a day.
Right. Well, you still have to have something to focus on,
Yeah.
I think it could get.
Thank you, Sam.
Sam, you're saying there's a chance.
Balancing
Saying there's a chance.
Balancing that out.
That's right.
Why not us?
Why not? Thank you. I was just gonna say that.
Sam, where people lose their money is when they start paying that extra dollar for the power up and stuff. When I go in there, they always ask me, I say, I'm going playing for the big prize. Just winning $1 million or $2 million, I'm not in it for that. I'm in it for the big prize. Here's my $2 and my numbers. Mega Millions is up there too. Mega Millions is over again. I don't look anymore at what the Powerball is at. I figured out what your take home would be.
There you go.
You got to take the cash value. You got to take the cash value and times it by 0.56. You get 56% of your winnings after. You'd have to pay 44% in taxes.
Somebody has been thinking a whole bunch about this.
I believe you, Anthony, and I appreciate that. But I defer if you can keep my share, sir.
I don't
exactly.
even want cash. I just want it to pay off my student loans.
There you go. All right, we're about to head back in.
Yeah, this turns into yacht radio at that point, right?
Yeah,
Right.
right. We'd all be on different yachts.
radio.
I want to hear the voice.
Yacht Sports Talk Show.
Yeah, use Thurston Howell's voice while you're talking about Gamecock football. That'd be magic. You guys are up.
You guys are missing out if you haven't been on the live video stream this morning. Which SEC head football coach would win Survivor? And Bill just took us down the path of the Powerball winnings, and Anthony says he would make a scholarship for my little ones if I declined to take. He said he'd take care of everybody on the show if he wins Powerball.
I will say, and somebody brought it up earlier. Did you see was it a 16-team parlay? 16-team leg parlay last night. It was like $25 to win $762,000. Was that the right number? And it came down to the Lions having to win last night. But I mean, that's why it was so high. You take a wild underdog like that, like the Lions.
Well, what was it through MGM? I know on FanDuel and DraftKings you can cash out your bets. So if it's like you have $1 million on the line and it's on a parlay and it's down to one game, they'd say you can cash out now for $300,000 or something like that. That guy should have done that. Relying on the Lions to win on Monday Night Football against Aaron Rodgers at home. I mean, what were you doing making that parlay? They must have been random picks.
No, I'd have to go back and look at it. There's a part of that where when you take that bet, when you take it in the manner that he did, you've got to throw in a big underdog and hope. And look, let's be honest. Well, we haven't talked about the Monday night game last night. I'm not sold that the Packers are back. Like Aaron Rodgers still struggled a little bit in the first half there, and then he really got it going in the second half. But he missed some throws early on, and then kind of got it going. It wasn't the craziest thing in the world with Jared Goff, and if the Lions could get it going. Dan Campbell's a little bit of a madman out there, but it wasn't the craziest one. I think the line was 12. The overall line was 12. He had the Lions straight up, and I think that was plus 480.
So last night as well, Aaron Jones ended up with 4 touchdowns. I think 1 on the ground, 3 catches, and just saw the story that he had a chain with a football medallion with his dad's ashes in there that ended up getting lost in the game. He thinks it happened like on the second touchdown. They went back and looked for it on the remote field. And I really admire Aaron Jones for his line afterwards. He was like, well, if it was going to be lost anywhere, that's where he want me to lose it. I guess his dad had recently passed away due to COVID complications, and he wanted to honor his memory last night. Is
it not crazy that they couldn't find it on the field?
It is.
Hundreds of people out there.
But there's a lot going on there. And don't know exactly how they maintain the field there at Lambeau as well. I'm sure. I know at Williams-Brice they get the rollers out on the field pretty immediately after that game is done to keep the grass in the best shape possible. And I feel like those are kind of going to be the old-fashioned stadiums, the actual natural grass. We saw it up in Charlotte, Bank of America Stadium this offseason where they switched all the artificial turf and the whole thing. So there's a lot involved in keeping those fields good to go. Just a crazy story to hear from the Monday Night Football game that had Peyton and Eli entertaining us last night. I think they just continue to kind of reshape the way some of us watch football anyway. I enjoyed it for sure. Hope you enjoyed today. We'll end with one final text from anonymous texters. I love the show, guys. With the experience our offensive line has, talking about Gamecock football, we should not be seeing defenders coming through untouched when they're not even blitzing. Way too much of that and hard to watch when you know they have the talent to at least play at a consistent, somewhat competitive level. I think that's what most fans right now from game 3 to game 4 are going to be looking for improvement-wise. We'll hear what Shane Beamer has to say about that, I'm guessing, coming up at today's weekly press conference at 1:15. Dan Patrick Show coming up next. Thanks for listening to the early game.
Clear.
It's all sports, all the time. 107.5 The Game.
All right, Anthony, nice work, man. Appreciate you guys on the live stream. We'll do it again tomorrow morning, bright and early.